Chapter 2700. Inhuman. 3. After thinking for a long time, the representative of the god lord's estate finally made up his mind and said fiercely, "Humph. Lung Ruashue, don't think that I'm afraid of you, just because I'm giving you face. You're alone, right? There are so many of us here. Do you think you can keep us here? You can try." Lung Ruashue said calmly. When the other party saw that Lung Ruashue did not deny that she was the only one on their side, he felt at ease. He even held his head high and laughed out loud. "Lung Ruashue, you're alone and you still dare to boast so shamelessly? I really don't know where you get your confidence from." When the others heard this, they also laughed wildly in cooperation. Who said that it's only for Miss Lung? At this moment, an angry roar was heard. Then, the second and fifth masters appeared in the guest house with their subordinates. Following closely behind them were the Alliance Master and the others, who had quickly dealt with the traitors and rushed over to make up the numbers. Seeing that Lung Ruakshu's side had suddenly gained many reinforcements, the God Lord Manor's representative was not afraid. Instead, he looked at the Alliance Master and Li Jing with even more disdain and laughed. Even a defeated opponent dares to come and court death. Damn it, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have been captured. The Alliance Master immediately roared in anger. All is fair in war. Haven't you heard of it? Who told you to be so careless? The God Lord's estate's representative said shamelessly. That's reasonable. All's fair in war. Lung Ruashue agreed. Hearing this, the representative of the God Lord's estate became more and more proud. He couldn't help but show off to the Alliance Master and the others. Even Lung Ruashue feels that you guys are too useless. Miss Lung, can you let me deal with this person? The Alliance Master ignored the representative from the God Lord's estate and spoke to Lung Ruashue instead. Yes. Lung Ruashue nodded. She knew that the Alliance Master wanted to take revenge, so she couldn't stop him. She simply took a step back and watched the show from the side. Then, the Alliance Master took a big step forward and stood face to face with the representative of the God Lord's estate. As soon as the two of them met, the chief immediately attacked. Countless light blue water attribute divine power was released from his hand, which instantly turned into sharp water blades that shot toward the God Lord estate representatives. The God Lord's estate's representative couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "You've actually recovered your divine power." However, he didn't panic. He also raised his hand and threw a small handful of colorless and transparent powder into the air. This time, the Alliance Master was mentally prepared. The moment the other party moved, he quickly covered his mouth and nose. Seeing this, the representative of the God Lord's estate snorted and said, "You think you'll be fine if you cover your nose and mouth?" Hearing this, the Alliance Master's eyes widened. What did this mean? He didn't need to think about it himself. The representative of the God Lord's manor then asked, "I'm telling you, it's useless. You're dead today. Is that so?" Just as the Alliance Master was bewildered, Azure asked with a faint smile. Of course, the God Lord's estate's representative thought that it was the Alliance Master who had said this, so he replied with great pride. However, he soon realized that the one who interrupted him was the little kitten that he had ignored all this time. "I don't believe it," Azure said, as if the other party was a big liar. "Damned animal. You shut up. You have no right to speak here." The God Lord's estate's representative turned to shout at Song Ho. He had wanted to scold the silly cat when it interrupted him earlier, but he didn't have the time to do so. Now that he had the opportunity, how could he not retaliate? Wouldn't he be looked down upon by a cat? Who knew that as soon as he said this, Azure's body immediately emitted an endless cold pressure and roared, "You bastard! You're the animal. Your whole family is a bunch of animals." Azure didn't feel that it could vent its anger just by roaring. After it finished scolding, it quickly jumped out of Lung Ruakshu's arms and dashed towards the representative of the Divine Master's estate at lightning speed. Everyone could only see a white beam of light dancing in the air, followed by tragic screams, each more tragic than the last. A moment later, the white beam of light returned to Lung Ruakshu's arms, returning to its image of an obedient little kitten. At the same time, the representative from the House of Gods was covered in claw marks. Blood was dripping down from his wounds, and his clothes were like torn cloth, hanging on his body on the verge of collapse. He only stood in front of everyone for a few seconds before he fell to the ground and passed out. Tragic. How tragic. Thanks, the onlookers only felt their scalps go numb, and fear rose in their hearts. This little cat was really too ruthless. It had not even been a minute, and he had already scratched him to this extent. How much hatred did he have for her? The Ascender Alliance couldn't imagine it, but at the same time, they were glad that they weren't its enemy. Otherwise, they might have been the ones lying on the ground. However, the people from the Godlord's manor could not be as calm as them. Seeing that the person in charge was unconscious and his life or death was unknown, they were all afraid without a leader. All of them looked at a loss. What should they do? Should they resist or surrender? This was the only thought on the side of the Divine Lord's estate. Do you want to die? Seeing that they were wavering, Azur's eyes widened and he shouted, "No, I don't want to die." Some people couldn't take the shock and knelt down to beg for mercy. Surrender if you don't want to die. They'll only give you 1 minute to decide. After 1 minute, those who don't surrender will all die. Song threatened. This time, the people from the God Lord's estate were completely flustered. The less courageous ones felt their legs go soft, and the hesitant ones surrendered under Song's intimidating gaze. Such a scene caused the Ascender Alliance to sigh endlessly. This was the difference in strength. Although the kitten had only shown a little bit of strength, it was enough to make people feel fear. Just like that, with Song's help, Lung Ruashua took care of the people from the Divine Master's residence without even making a move. Although she had thought of making these people surrender, she felt that she had no sense of accomplishment if they really surrendered. This contradictory mood made her quite conflicted. "Girl, you don't need to do anything to those small fries. I'll give them to you when there's a big shark. Calm down, there'll be a chance." A big shark? After Lung Ruashua heard this consolation, she was speechless. She couldn't help but wonder if the big shark that Song was referring to was the fog phoenix. Ugh, the fish was a little big, and she couldn't catch it yet. In fact, other than Lung Ruashua, who was feeling a little depressed, the Ascender Alliance's Alliance Master was also feeling depressed. This was because the Divine Master's estate's representative had originally been given to him by Lung Ruashua, but it had been snatched away by Song. Moreover, Song had not even been there for a minute and had directly knocked a certain representative unconscious. This was extremely embarrassing for a dignified supreme god like him. However, since things had come to this, he could only do this. After that, the Alliance Master quickly adjusted his state of mind and kindly told Lung Ruashua and Song that he would be preparing a grand celebration party later and invited them to join. The man and the cat both smiled without saying a word. The Alliance Master thought that they had agreed. However, when they were ready to invite the person, the Ascender Alliance suddenly realized that the person had quietly slipped away. Before he left, he only left behind a letter, which read to the Alliance Master. After opening the letter, the Alliance Master's face was like a color palette: white, red, green, green, and black. His expression was changing unpredictably, and his expression was particularly conflicted. Li Jing and the other elders did not understand what was going on, but when they took the letter and read it, they were all at a loss. There's only one sentence written in the letter: "Please prepare the reward and send it to Demon City. The deadline is 1 month. If you're late, you will be charged a late payment fee." There were a few small categories, such as the cost of alchemy and saving people. Although the Alliance Master and the rest did not understand what she meant by delayed payment of gold, they knew that it was definitely not something good. Hence, without further ado, the Ascender Alliance, from the Alliance Master to the Elders and Sub-Alliance Masters, all took action quickly to raise funds for Lung Ruashua. It was a good thing that the Ascender Alliance was a big organization and Lung Ruashua did not ask for too much. Hence, the reward was prepared very quickly. The Alliance Master and Li Jing followed their original plan and decided to head to the Land of Demons personally. A week later, the Alliance Master and Li Jing finally arrived at the Land of Demons. However, when they arrived at the Devil's Land, the two of them found out that Lung Ruashu and the little kitten had not returned at all. This result stunned the two of them. Uncle Long and the others also asked in confusion, since the matter of the Ascender Alliance has been resolved, why didn't Shui come back with you? She didn't say where she went. She only left a letter and left without saying goodbye. The Alliance Master said the truth, but he couldn't help but think, your people, you ask me, but who should I ask? Damn it, where did this girl go? It's really worrying. When Master Ning heard that Shui Er's whereabouts were unknown, he immediately became angry. However, when the Alliance Master heard this, he couldn't help but mutter in his heart, worried? They shouldn't be worried about Lung Ruashue, but the people she might cause trouble for, right? However, of course, he didn't dare to say this out loud. After all, he was in someone else's territory. How could he say bad things about his master? Furthermore, they were indebted to Lung Ruashue. Therefore, when he heard Master Ning's words, he could only pretend to be invisible and refuse to express his opinion. The master of the Ning family only said that he was worried, but he was actually complaining in his heart. Because Shui didn't say anything to them, they were letting their thoughts run wild at home. That detestable girl. She had to teach her a lesson when she came back. Let her go missing for no reason. Why didn't you think of your godfather when there was something fun? What a heartless little girl. Master Ning was grumbling in his heart, but Lung Ruashue, who was thousands of miles away, was sneezing nonstop. She knew that her family was nagging at her, but she had no choice. She had been completely kidnapped by Tsang. Chapter 2701. So what if you have more hands, one? Where is she now? Lung Ruakshu's eyes went dark. She had no idea where she was at all. There were only mountains in front of her, and the sky was dark and chaotic. Moreover, if she remembered correctly, there was no such thing on the map. Tsang, what is this place? Lung Ruashua couldn't help but ask as she looked at Tsang's calm and composed appearance. Tsang teleported with her for a few days before finally arriving here. However, it was as if nothing had happened here, constantly commanding her to wander around the mountains like a headless fly. Lung Ruashue was a little confused about Tsang's intentions. This place. I'm not telling you yet. Tsang laughed evilly. He then saw Lung Ruakshu's depressed expression and couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Lung Ruashue was indeed very depressed. This little thing was actually keeping her in suspense. Girl, I'm hungry. Let's eat something first, Tsang said after laughing for a while. All right then. Lung Ruashue was extremely helpless. She could only resign herself to her fate and take out some ingredients to prepare something to eat so that she could feed this little fellow that was driving her crazy. A moment later, Lung Ruashue nimbly prepared some fragrant food. Tsang didn't say anything and started eating by Lung Ruakshu's feet. Seeing that Tsang's appetite was so good, Lung Ruashue couldn't help but wonder if this little fellow was here for an outing. Just as Lung Ruashue was thinking about this, she suddenly heard a rustling sound. Instantly, she raised her guard. Following that, a huge black shadow pounced towards the man and the beast. Lung Ruashue immediately picked up Tsang and quickly dodged to an empty space at the side. When the huge black shadow saw that it had missed, it furiously pounced towards Lung Ruashue and Tsang. It was only then that Lung Ruashue could see the true face of the black shadow. It was a giant centipede that was at least 1,000 meters long. The centipede's entire body was as black as armor, and there was a light blue glow on it. Its broad body was as big as a small mountain. She had heard that centipedes had 100 or 1,000 legs, but from what Lung Ruashue could see, this centipede probably had 10,000 legs. The centipede's head was even bigger than her body, especially the two millstone-like eyes on the centipede's head. They were eerie and terrifying. At this moment, they were exuding a frighteningly cold air. Just looking at them would make one feel fear. Its mouth was full of huge teeth, and they were making cracking sounds. As for this centipede's strength, it was roughly between the 8th and 9th rank. However, based on its size and its ferocity, it could definitely be compared to a true 9th rank sacred beast. As for Lung Ruashue, She didn't dare to let her guard down when facing this disgusting centipede. After dodging the centipede's violent attacks twice, she had completely angered the centipede. Human, cunning humans, I won't let you off. The centipede opened its mouth in anger. Lung Rawashue was speechless. How was she cunning? He only dodged twice and didn't let the centipede catch him. How could this be considered cunning? Could it be that when she saw this centipede, she could only stand still and let it do whatever it wanted? That wasn't not cunning, but stupid, right? She had to admit that she was very worried about the centipede's intelligence. Very well, I won't let you off either. After that, Lung Rawashue replied, unwilling to be outdone. Even though she was not as big as her opponent's head, she would never admit defeat in terms of aura. Otherwise, the centipede would probably laugh at her even more. She was also a little curious about where this centipede came from. Yeah, humans, you're so bold. The centipede was obviously mad with anger. It waved its countless legs and bared its fangs and claws in front of Lung Rawashue. Thanks, Lung Rawashue was very depressed as she thought. So what if you have more hands? Taking out Cold Shadow, Lung Rawashue flicked her wrist and drew out several beautiful and dazzling sword rays in the air. Centipede blinked his eyes in confusion and asked, Human, what do you want to do? I'm going to cut off your feet, damn it. You think you're so great with more hands? Lung Rawashue roared. As she was speaking, the centipede's claws were still moving nonstop, as if it was going to pounce on her. She was furious. After listening to her, the centipede didn't get angry at all. Instead, it nodded in agreement. It's quite amazing to have more hands. Lung Rawashue was truly helpless. This centipede was a narcissistic fellow. Since that's the case, then don't blame her. She didn't have a good impression of centipedes, anyway. Besides, the centipede wanted to kill her. Actions speak louder than words. While Lung Rawashue was thinking this, the cold shadow in her hand had already sent a few cold glints towards the centipede's claws. With a bang, the sword glints struck a few of the centipede's huge legs, creating intense sparks. However, the cold shadow's sword glints only left a few faint white marks on the centipede's huge legs. Other than that, it did not cause much damage to the centipede. Lung Rawashue was astonished. This centipede's shell was so hard. Centipede sneered, Puny human, you dare to be my enemy? You're really tired of living. Oomph. Today, they'll let you taste the power of my 1,000 feet. As soon as it finished speaking, the centipede's huge and hard tail swept towards Lung Rawashue. As Lung Rawashue dodged, she could not help but remind him, Is this your foot? This is a tail, right? You bastard. Did the main body not recognize tails? They'll let you have a taste of my tail first before using it to its full extent, all right? The corrected centipede was very angry. Its black hard shell seemed to be shining with a faint fiery red. It was obvious that it was very angry. Yes, you can. However, I'm afraid that you won't have the chance to use it fully later. After Lung Rawashue finished her sentence, she quickly infused her fire-type divine power into the cold shadow. In an instant, a few sharp sword gleams flew out again. The centipede was huge and had no time to dodge. It was extremely confident in its own strength, so it didn't think of dodging either. Therefore, it allowed the sword rays to hit its body and feet. But this time, it had completely miscalculated. The fiery red sword light hit its body and feet, and it was so painful that it wanted to roll on the ground. That heart-piercing pain almost took half of its life. How did this happen? Centipede couldn't believe his eyes. The other party's sword ray had also hit his body before, but nothing had happened to him, right? Why was it different this time? Not only was it different, but this time the other party's sword radiance had also cut off a few of its giant legs. And the pain of the giant foot leaving its body was something it never wanted to experience again in its life. It was too painful. It was too painful. Whoa! Tears welled up in the centipede's large eyes. What kind of trick did this woman use? How could he be so powerful? This woman who was holding a small pet was clearly weaker than it. Chapter 2702. So what if you have more hands, too? The centipede couldn't figure it out. Its heart was bleeding when it saw the giant foot lying on the ground. What are you doing? Then the centipede saw the woman in front of it pick up the few giant legs that had left it. It could not help but ask carefully, why did it feel that something was going to fall on its head? I heard that the centipede is a medicinal ingredient, so of course I can't waste it. I'm going to keep your leg for alchemy. Lung Ruashua answered the centipede's question with a smile. Her pair of beautiful eyes kept on sizing up the centipede's sturdy and hard black shell. At once, the centipede was infuriated by Lung Ruakshu's words and the way she was sizing it up. It immediately roared, "Human, how dare you? Do you know who I am?" "I know, you're a centipede." Lung Ruashua nodded. "Oomph. Ignorant human. I'm telling you, I'm not just a centipede. I'm also the chief of the entire centipede race in the divine world. At the same time, I'm also a trusted aide of God, Lord Fogripple. So if you're smart, you'd better leave behind my foot and quickly leave. Otherwise, you'll only die here." In a fit of rage, the centipede revealed its trump card. Initially, he thought that after it revealed his background, Lung Ruashua would be so frightened that she would immediately run away. Who knew that not only did she not leave after hearing his words, she even appeared to be in deep thought. This made the Centipede clan leader extremely puzzled. As expected of Wu Cheng's subordinate, I cut off a few of his legs, but not only did he not want to take revenge, he even wanted to let me go. Lung Ruashua laughed indifferently. In other words, she was saying, "Little centipede, you're so cowardly." Oomph. It's good that you know. As subordinates of God Lord Mist Ripple, how could we stoop to the level of puny humans? So, this Lord will be magnanimous and not haggle with you. If you know what's good for you, then quickly leave. Don't force me to do it. The Centipede clan leader did not catch the hidden meaning behind Lung Ruakshu's words. Instead, he spoke with pride. It was honored to be a subordinate of God, Lord Mist Ripple. But in reality, it had thought of taking revenge after Lung Ruashua had chopped off a few of its legs. It was just that it had some instinctive fear of Lung Ruakshu's fire attribute divine power. Thus, it would rather suffer a little than to be entangled with this human. However, how could Lung Ruashua be dismissed so easily? Especially after hearing that the other party was a trusted aide of Ripple. She would not leave so easily. People from Rhymice. How could he let her go? After some thought, Lung Ruashua continued to smile. "If you want me to leave, I'll leave. Just take the initiative and offer me your body." "Oh, this shell of yours should be pretty good for forging. Despicable human, how dare you try to steal my outer shell? You must be tired of living." After the centipede heard this, it was furious again. It really felt that the woman in front of it really didn't know what was good for her. It didn't even want to argue with her, but why was she still so insensible? Little did it know that Lung Ruashua had only made up her mind to pester it endlessly after hearing it call itself a subordinate of the Ripple Mist. Therefore, the moment it revealed its identity, its fate was already decided. "You'll know if I'm tired of living after you try. Come on, let's continue, Chief Centipede." Lung Ruashua beckoned at the centipede, whose body was on fire from anger. Then, she flashed out the cold shadow in her hand, signaling for the other party to quickly make a move. However, the Centipede clan leader did not act rashly. He looked at the calm Lung Ruashua, then glanced at the sword in her hand that was emitting a cold aura. Suddenly, he turned around and retreated decisively. As he left, the Centipede clan leader thought to himself, "I don't want to waste my time with this lunatic." It was such a waste of time. Lung Ruashua was dumbfounded when she saw this. Thanks while she was still in a daze, the swift Centipede clan leader had already disappeared into the gray fog, without a trace. Lung Ruashua was extremely depressed. What mistake! She had never expected that the giant centipede would escape. What should he do now? The other party was Wu Yan's subordinate, and he was really unwilling to let her go just like that. Wait a minute. Why would Wu Yan's subordinates be here? Could it be that it also knew that he was somewhat unsightly, so it hid here? As such, it seemed that she could not let the centipede go. With such a powerful beastie, it would definitely be a big problem to keep it. "Song, we have to find that centipede and destroy it." After thinking for a while, Lung Roashue spoke to Tsang Dao very seriously. And that guy's entire body is a treasure. Not only can it be used to refine pills, it can also be used to refine weapons. It's indeed a rare material. Azure nodded in agreement. Lung Roashue was speechless. That was not what she meant. She just wanted to weaken the fog, but she couldn't deny that Tsang's words were true. That centipede was a treasure. Tsang, let's go find that centipede. Lung Roashue couldn't be bothered to argue with Tsang and directly said, Girl, don't be anxious. Wait for another 2 or 3 days, and we'll meet it again. Tsang had a look of confidence as he said mysteriously, What? Lung Roashue was puzzled. What did this mean? Aren't you curious as to why that centipede is here? Azure asked with a faint smile. What? Lung Roashue was very cooperative. Since Tsang had said so, it shouldn't be the childish reason she thought of before. There's a precious herb here, and that centipede was ordered to guard it. Originally, this centipede was the guardian beast of that medicinal herb, but it was later subdued by that bitch, Wu Han, so it became Wu Han's slave. This time, Azure didn't keep him in suspense and explained. Lung Ruoxu's interest was piqued the moment she heard the word precious. She asked, Is that medicinal herb the reason you brought me here? Yes, that medicinal herb is very important to the rye mice. Therefore, we must get it. Azure clenched his furry little fist and said fiercely, In that case, should we call Uncle Long and the others over? There's strength in numbers. Lung Ruoxue suggested. However, Azure shook his head. There's no need to call them over. The 2 of us are enough. Are you sure? What if Wu Xian comes here? Lung Ruoxue asked worriedly. Even though the fog ripple had been injured, she didn't know how much better the woman's injuries had gotten. She didn't dare to let her guard down. He'll deal with her when she comes, but I don't think she'll come here. This place is considered one of her secret bases. It's not even marked on the map of the Divine Realm, so she definitely won't expect us to come here. More importantly, the guards here are all idiots who rarely move around in the Divine Realm. They have never seen us before, so they naturally don't know about the enmity between us and Fog Ice. So don't worry. We'll definitely be able to get those herbs. Azure was full of confidence. This was also the reason why it didn't allow Lung Ruoxue to call Uncle Long and the others over. In the land of evil demons, there were countless pairs of eyes watching them. If the spies of Fog Ice discovered the actions of Uncle Long and the others, it would definitely alarm Fog Ice, and it would make it difficult for them to snatch that medicinal herb. Chapter 2703. So what if you have more hands, 3, but we've already been discovered by the centipede? Is that okay? Lung Ruoxue was still a little worried. That centipede is an idiot. It was so scared by you that it hid in the hole. Before the herb ripened, it would definitely not dare to leave, so don't worry. It doesn't have the intention to tattle. We just need to stay here in peace. It won't think that our goal is that medicinal herb. At most, they'll think that we've mistakenly entered this nameless mountain. Tsang laughed evilly. Before coming, he already knew the situation here like the back of his hand. However, he deliberately maintained a sense of mystery and didn't tell Nyo anything. Now that he thought about it, his decision was indeed right. When saw Nyo's blank face, its mood was particularly good. Fortunately, Lung Ruoxue wasn't aware of its little evil interest. Otherwise, she would have vomited blood from depression. Hearing Tsang's words, Lung Ruoxue could only let go of her worries and stay where she was. However, she was still very curious about the medicinal herb and finally couldn't help but ask, Tsang, what is the herb that you said is very important to the rye mice? What's the use of it? That herb is called the blood lotus flower. There's only one of it in the world. At that time, the seed of the blood lotus flower was also contaminated with a trace of chaos chi. It could be considered a plant born from chaos and has some relatives with the fog. So, after the fog found it and subdued the centipede, the fog has ordered the centipede to guard it for tens of thousands of years. The moment the blood lotus flower matures, the fog will absorb the essence of the blood lotus flower. At that time, the cultivation of the fog will definitely take a big step forward. She might even become the true master of the divine realm. At that time, it would be even more difficult for us to deal with her. But fortunately, she was injured by the demonic man before, so even if she has absorbed the essence of the blood lotus flower, she can't completely use up her strength. However, with the essence of the blood lotus flower that has been around for tens of thousands of years, it will be easy for her to heal Wu Lian's injuries. So, no matter what, we can't let the blood lotus flower fall into the hands of Wu Lian. Azure said very seriously. After Lung Ruoxue heard these words, she nodded. She had never seen Song show such a serious expression, so she naturally paid more attention to it. But she still had some questions. Azure, how did you discover the existence of the blood lotus flower? Lung Ruoxue was very curious. I've known about it for a long time and have been paying attention to it. However, the blood lotus flower grows extremely slowly. It's been tens of thousands of years. Any other natural treasure would have been able to take form long ago, but that little flower hasn't developed any spiritual consciousness yet. It still recognizes me, Azure said with a bitter expression. It's been a long time indeed. In that case, you've been eyeing the blood lotus flower for a long time. Lung Ruoxue listened to Tsang's complaints and couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. Between this beast and flower, there was clearly, "Girl, how can you say that? We can't let it fall into the hands of Fog. I hate that woman. My greatest pleasure is to make trouble for her and make things difficult for her. So, we must get the blood lotus." Azure reminded him seriously. Yes, just because that flower is what Wumo wants, I can't give it to her. However, what kind of flower was the blood lotus flower? And what does it have to do with Shuelian? Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask. It doesn't matter. They just look a little similar. However, snow lotuses are basically white, while blood lotus flowers are as red as blood. They are very bright. Song explained. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head, understanding the situation. So the flower will mature in 2 or 3 days? She continued. Yep. After it matures, it will be able to develop intelligence. I'm really looking forward to what it will be like. Azure said happily, looking at its appearance. Lung Ruoxue was even more certain that there was something going on between Song and that flower. Afraid that Song would find out, Lung Ruoxue quickly put away her improper thoughts and smiled. Congratulations, you finally have the chance to meet. Girl, you'll see it too. Azure reminded. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded, but she couldn't help but think to herself, I'm not looking forward to it as much as you. I just don't want that flower to be obtained by Wu Xiao. Just like that, the two of them began to wait patiently. However, on the second day, the blood lotus flower that Song had been waiting for did not mature. On the third day, from the morning, Lung Ruoxue could clearly feel the increase in the spiritual energy in the mountain. Furthermore, there was an uncountable amount of spiritual energy swarming towards their location. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue and Song knew that this was a sign that the blood lotus flower was maturing. Without waiting for Lung Ruoxue to open her mouth, Song teleported Lung Ruoxue to a dark cave. The cave was so dark that he couldn't even see his fingers. Lung Ruoxue wanted to light up a small flame, but was stopped by Tsang. Girl, don't light a fire, Tsang Huan transmitted. You'll scare the blood lotus flower. That little fellow is very timid. Hearing Tsang's words, Lung Ruoxue could only give up and silently endure the darkness in front of her. Actually, she really didn't like such a dark place, especially when there were a few other slightly unfamiliar auras besides them here. This made Lung Ruoxue even more disgusted. Needless to say, those unfamiliar auras must have been sent by the mist to guard the blood lotus flower. Thanks, just as Lung Ruoxue was feeling depressed that she did not know when the blood lotus flower would truly mature, suddenly, a small spot of light lit up not too far away from her. It was like a firefly emitting a faint light. Slowly, the light expanded bit by bit. However, the speed at which the light expanded was really too slow. By the time the light was the size of a baby's fist, an hour had passed. However, the spiritual energy in the cave had obviously increased. Lung Ruoxue's sharp senses could also sense that the violent spiritual energy was swarming towards the light from all directions. The few auras in the cave all held their breaths, not daring to disturb the blood lotus flower's maturity. After an unknown period of time, the spirit chi that had almost turned into liquid finally stopped being violent and slowly stabilized. The fresh air in the cave also made Lung Ruoxue feel much more comfortable. In an instant, the pitch-black cave suddenly became as bright as day. Lung Ruoxue could finally see the true appearance of the blood lotus flower in Song's mouth. It was a red flower the size of an adult's palm. It was indeed very similar to a snow lotus. Its color was very bright, and the bright red petals were like drops of blood. They were crystal clear and beautiful. A faint layer of flowing light covered the petals, making the blood lotus flower appear even more noble. The tiny flower was like a king that no one dared to look at directly. However, at the same time that she saw the blood lotus flower, Lung Ruoxue also saw the three ugly beastie in front of them. In addition to the huge centipede, there was also a spider that was as tall as a building and a giant black ant with a golden crown on its head. Needless to say, these three guys were definitely chiefs, kings, or something of the sort. Seeing them, Lung Ruoxue wanted to curse, but her good upbringing forced her to hold it in. She looked at the three ugly creatures in front of her with a face full of vigilance. In an instant, 4 figures flew towards the blood lotus flower. One of the white figures, which was as fast as lightning, was naturally azure, while the other 3 were the 3 ugly beasts. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she was prepared to lend Song a hand to block the 3 beasts. Who knew that before she could even make a move, the heart of the tiny blood lotus spat out a red mist. Almost instantly, the 3 ugly beasts took a big step back at the same time. Song took the opportunity to keep the blood lotus in his arms. Looking at Song's careful manner, as if he was holding a rare treasure, Lung Ruoxue was even more certain that there was an extraordinary friendship between them. However, this was obviously not the time for gossip. There were still 3 very ugly beastie eyeing them covetously. However, what surprised Lung Ruoxue was that after the blood lotus flower was obtained by Song, not only did the 3 ugly beasts not immediately rush forward to snatch it, they even looked as if they had suffered a huge blow. Especially the Centipede clan leader. His face had completely crumbled and tears were rolling down his face. Following that, he heard the Centipede clan leader choked with sobs. "Little blood, how can you treat me like this? I've been protecting you for tens of thousands of years." As soon as he said this, the other 2 also burst into tears, as if they had been wronged, and joined in, "Little blood, you don't want us anymore? In what way can we not compare to that damn cat?" After saying that, the other 2 were still burning with jealousy and glared at Song fiercely. Upon hearing this, Lung Ruoxue looked at the complicated relationship in front of her. She could not help but imagine, could this be the so-called "my lover is married, but am not the groom"? No, it should be the lover that he had protected for tens of thousands of years. But the moment he woke up one day, he fell in love with someone else. It was obvious that the guardian would be very sad. As for Tsang, who was on the other side, he was obviously domineering. He fought 1 against 3, using his small body to fight against 3 huge monsters. Lung Ruoxue's mind was filled with wild thoughts. Just then, she heard an extremely childish voice ring out by her ear. "So, what if you have protected me for tens of thousands of years? You still want me to die, don't you?" The childish voice sounded very angry. "You guys can't compare to Azure in any way." He added, "Look at how smart this little guy is." Although it had just gained sentience, it was clear that these 3 ugly fellows were not as good as Tsang, who was obviously more interested in it. Lung Ruoxue supported the idea of the tiny blood lotus flower, and he quickly expressed it with his actions. She clapped. "Little guy, you made a wise choice. These 3 monsters didn't have good intentions. They were monsters who specialized in deceiving children. Fortunately, you didn't fall for it." Lung Ruoxue praised as she wished for the world to be in chaos. "Thank you, but I'm not a little guy. You are." The blood lotus flower corrected Lung Ruoxue's words in a serious manner. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue felt depressed for a moment. "All right, She understood what the other party meant. She quickly decided not to argue with a plant that had lived for tens of thousands of years because she would lose miserably. Chapter 2704. Don't Stop Me. 1. Lung Ruashua was smart enough to maintain her silence. However, the other three ugly fellows were unwilling to be left out. They were unwilling to be ignored. More importantly, the blood lotus flower's words had caused them to be heartbroken. The giant centipede had a look of betrayal on its face as it said, "Little blood, how can you say that we are sending you to your death? We're all doing this for your own good. You're sending me to my death for my own good." Little blood said angrily. Its tender voice was so angry that it was a little sharp. "This can't be considered suicide, right? It's just to maximize your role as a plant. And think about it. If you can become a part of the Master God, how great of an honor would that be for you?" The giant centipede tried to persuade the angry red flower. However, the flower became angrier and angrier when it heard this. It was so angry that it was trembling. Then, everyone heard a red flower that had just gained sentience curse. Bullshit. Who would want to be a part of that bitch? Whose grandfather had said that sending one to death was the greatest use of plants? Then why don't you just go and die? Fuck. Why don't you just go and die? Not only can your body be used to refine pills, but it can also be used to refine weapons. So, it's much more useful than me. Why don't you take the initiative to offer yourself and let others kill you? The blood lotus flower was furious, and the consequences were severe. Moreover, with its anger, the red mist that spurted out from the center of the flower became even more intense. The three beastie, led by the centipede, hurriedly took a few large steps back in fear. Azure held the blood lotus flower with an indifferent expression and looked at the three with a faint smile. Lung Ruakshu's face was filled with black lines. She couldn't understand how a little guy who had just gained sentience could learn a curse. Could it be self-taught? The possibility of this should be very low, right? Moreover, that person didn't admit that she was the little guy's flower and even called Wuchin a bitch. This was most likely that Song's sect. It had to be said that Lung Ruashua was right. These words were really from the Azure sect. Although Azure rarely appeared by the blood lotus flower's side, he could still communicate with Little Flower spiritually. Over time, the pure blood lotus was instilled by Tsong into the fog that it was a bad guy. It was a slut. It was the idea of Grandmother Wolf who wanted to eat it, and it was deeply ingrained in the blood lotus flower's heart. As for the three beasts who had been ordered to protect the blood lotus flower, Azure had also spoken ill of them. Because of this, even if Azure didn't appear often, Flowery didn't really care about those three. Moreover, it did not have any intelligence, so even if they wanted to communicate, there was no way. The three beasts definitely did not have Azure's ability to communicate with the blood lotus flower that had no intelligence. As such, the three of them were naturally in a tragedy. Xiaohua only treated them as servants. At least with someone to protect them, it didn't have to worry too much about its safety. More importantly, it was very clear that as long as it was not mature, the ripple which would not be willing to eat it. That was why it had been living a carefree life for the past tens of thousands of years. Now that it had matured, it meant that danger was coming. It was time for the two sides to fall out. Now that it had the protection of the thick-skinned Azure, it naturally didn't need to fear these three guys. It had to be said that Azure's upbringing had been very successful, and the blood lotus flower was very dependent on it. The closeness between the beast and the flower had greatly provoked the three ugly beasts, who were burning with jealousy. Seeing how the other party treated Song as a love rival, Lung Ruashua was both amused and speechless. However, she knew that the little flower was not to be trifled with. The red mist that came out of the flower's pistil was poisonous, although she didn't know what would happen if she came into contact with it. But looking at the three of them fearful expressions, the poison was probably not light. Lung Ruashua was secretly making guesses at the side. The three beastie, who had lost their rationality and flown into a rage out of humiliation, were conversing privately through voice transmission. They would even cast their gazes towards Lung Ruashua from time to time, causing her to be baffled. Why were the three of them looking at it? Just as Lung Ruoxue was feeling puzzled, she heard Qing Ju's chuckling in her heart. She could not help but wipe the sweat off her forehead. Before she could ask, Qing Ju's voice was heard. "Thanks, big sister. They're trying to get their hands on you." What? Lung Ruoxue didn't understand. Even though they were enemies, shouldn't they be dealing with their love rival now? Why did he have any ideas about her? However, before Lung Ruoxue could ask, she saw three huge black shadows pouncing towards her from the corner of her eye. She dodged nimbly and jumped to a safe place at the side, causing the three to miss. The three beasties' anger burned even more when they saw that they had failed. The Centipede clan leader was so furious that he spat out a black poison at Lung Ruoxue. At the same time, the giant spider spat out countless light yellow, web-like threads from its mouth, which were scattered towards Lung Ruoxue. The big black ant waved its two huge pincers and pounced towards Lung Ruoxue once again. The attacks that these three beasts used were all their most powerful attacks. They had made up their minds to teach Lung Ruoxue a lesson, so all three of them were going all out. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she was so angry that she wanted to curse the heavens. Damn it, this was bullying. She wasn't the one snatching his love away, so why was he trying to force himself on her? If you have the ability, go find a group of people and beat them up. This bunch of bastards who bully the weak and fear the strong. Lung Ruoxue was enraged. She immediately threw out a small flame. The small flame split into three in the air and flew towards the three beasts from different directions. As soon as the Centipede clan leader saw the flame, he was instinctively afraid and slowed down his pace. However, the other two did not know the truth. They continued to shoot out their pincers. The one that was waving its pincers increased its strength, determined to take Lung Ruoxue down. According to their thoughts, the woman in front of them was the owner of that hateful cat. As long as they killed this woman, that cat would not be a threat. He would deal with the cat after he killed this woman. It had to be said that Beastie also knew how to capture the king before capturing the bandits. Unfortunately, the weak woman in their eyes was not what she looked like. Therefore, the three Beastie who had this thought were destined to miscalculate. The first to suffer were the two spiders and ants who did not know the truth and thought that Lung Ruoxue was easy to bully. Just as they were about to continue attacking Lung Ruoxue, the small flame Lung Ruoxue had released landed lightly on their backs. Without giving them any chance to react, the small flame turned into a huge fire with a swoosh. The raging flames rose to a height of 3 feet and directly surrounded the two gigantic beasts. At the same time, a painful wail came from the fire. The wail grew louder, then gradually faded away, and finally disappeared little by little. Seeing this, the Centipede clan leader was so scared that his legs went weak. He wanted to run, but he could only look at Lung Ruoxue with a trembling face. His body, which was thousands of meters long, was so scared that he was paralyzed. It was completely dumbfounded. How did this happen? How did this happen? Chapter 2705. Don't stop me, too. What kind of flame was that? How could it be so powerful? Its two little companions didn't even resist, and they went silent. Was he dead? The Centipede clan leader didn't dare to think any further, but its huge body that was trembling violently revealed the boundless fear in its heart. It had long known that the flame was not simple, but did not expect it to be more powerful than it had imagined. At the thought of this, it suddenly realized that the woman had not killed it because she had been merciful. Woo! How did this happen? The Centipede clan leader asked himself for the umpteenth time. That woman clearly looked so weak, so how could she have such a powerful flame? This didn't make sense. The Centipede clan leader really wanted to roar into the sky. But at this time, what it regretted even more was that it had treated this woman as a soft persimmon. Now, not only was the persimmon not soft, it might even eat it. As the fear in her heart grew, Lung Ruoxue was no longer a weak woman in the eyes of the Centipede clan leader. She was a demon. That's right, brutal demon. It was an extremely terrifying demon that was not even as big as its head. That, it really wanted to ask, "Great demon, can you let me go?" Sob. It deeply regretted provoking Lung Ruashue. Just as the Centipede clan leader was filled with worry and trying to think of a way, the 30-foot-tall flame not far away gradually extinguished. The flames on the giant spider and ant turned into two small flames and fused with another flame. Then, the small flame slowly floated beside the Centipede clan leader, but it did not continue to attack. But even so, it was enough to scare the Centipede clan leader out of his wits. With a casual glance, it discovered that its two little companions were no longer breathing, leaving only two stiff bodies, reminding them that they had once existed, and also reminding the Centipede clan leader that everything he saw was not a dream. Let me go. Woo. After hesitating for a long time, the Centipede tribe leader finally gave in under the threat of the little flame beside him. A 1T. Lung Ruashua spat out these two words indifferently. Then, she intentionally said in a dissatisfied tone, "Didn't you just say that the blood lotus flower sacrifice would be worth it? Now, I also want your sacrifice to be worth it. You see, I've kept the bodies of your two little friends. I'm going to use them to refine weapons. In comparison, your body is more useful. Since you can refine pills and weapons, I've kept them alive." With such an explanation, the Centipede clan leader finally understood why Lung Ruashua did not kill him. Oh, so it's because the living ingredients are fresher. The Centipede clan leader was very regretful, so regretful that his intestines were turning green. But was there any use in regretting now? It was a little confused. After a long silence, the Centipede tribe leader finally turned his gaze to the blood lotus flower and sobbed, "Little blood, are you going to watch me get killed by humans? The earlier you die, the earlier you reincarnate. I will pray for you," the blood lotus flower said without even thinking. Thanks hearing this, Lung Ruashua couldn't help but burst out laughing. This little flower was quite cute. His words were also sharp. Furthermore, to the Centipede clan leader's ears, how sad would those words be? Sure enough, when the Centipede clan leader heard this, tears streamed down his face. At first, he cried silently, but in the end, he simply burst into tears. As he cried, he complained, "Little flower, you are too heartless. I have protected you for tens of thousands of years. Now that you have a new love, it's fine if you don't want me anymore. How can you let the owner of your new love kill me? Woo, how could you hurt my fragile heart like this? I'm so sad. I don't want to live anymore. Woo, don't stop me." As he cried and cried, the Centipede clan leader wanted to use his head to bang against the mountain wall. However, before he did so, he intentionally looked at Lung Ruashua. In the end, his gaze stopped on the little red flower for a very long time before he turned back reluctantly. "Don't stop me. I'm going to commit suicide." When Lung Ruashua, Tsung, and the blood lotus saw this, they didn't speak. Other than the sound of sobbing, the entire place was silent. However, at this moment, all three of their attention was focused on the Centipede clan leader. As the Centipede clan leader's head got closer to the mountain wall, it should have hit the wall with a bang. However, the three of them waited for a moment, and no one heard the sound of the wall hitting. The Centipede clan leader turned his head again and roared with grief and anger. "You guys are too much. There's no humanity at all. You saw that I was about to commit suicide, but you didn't stop me. Woo, bad guy. You're all bad guys. Didn't you tell us not to stop them?" Lung Ruakshu's forehead was filled with black lines as she said this in a speechless manner. In fact, what she wanted to say was that she was fine with both the living and dead centipedes, so she didn't want to stop them. Moreover, they weren't friends, so what was there to stop? In any case, the centipede would end up dead in the end. If he committed suicide, he might be able to escape earlier. Thus, Lung Ruashua was very supportive of its wise choice. "That's right. You already told us not to stop you. If we really do stop you, won't we just ruin your plans?" Azure also laughed evilly. "I said I'm not allowed to stop you, and you really don't care if I'm dead or alive. Do you have to be so inhumane?" The centipede fire roared. "Little centipede, can you please recognize our relationship? Don't be so stupid. You're on our side. What does your life or death have to do with us? Why do we have to be kind to you? Azure reminded him. If it wasn't for the fact that Beastie was confused, it wouldn't have said such nonsense to the other party. Fortunately, after listening to Lung Ruashue and Song's words, the Centipede clan leader finally regained some of his rationality and wasn't as stupid as before. Wu Yu, what do you want? Little blood has already been taken by you guys. I have nothing left, and you guys still won't let me go? After a long time, the Centipede clan leader finally woke up completely and asked, You're Wu Cheng's subordinate. It's impossible for us to let you go. Song replied with a smile after hearing the words of the Centipede clan leader. Do you know that you're going against God, Lord Fogripple? You guys stole her things. She won't let you guys go. Aren't you afraid? The Centipede clan leader asked in confusion. It didn't know where this man and beast had gotten the courage to steal food from God, Lord Mistripple's mouth. This was simply courting death. Even if we don't snatch that slut's things, she won't let us off. We're natural enemies, and we're destined to kill each other. So, it doesn't make much of a difference to us whether we snatch her things or not. Do you understand now? Azure said with a smile. Understood. The Centipede race chief wanted to cry, but no tears came out. So these two fellows had a grudge against God, Lord Mist Ripple, to begin with. Then it could be considered to have run into the hands of the enemy. No wonder it was unwilling to let it go. After understanding this, the Centipede clan leader felt that he could only wait for death. However, it still couldn't help but ask, Can you give me a quick death? Don't let me die too painfully. Chapter 2706. Don't stop me. 3. It depends on the situation. Lung Ruashue replied calmly. The moment the Centipede clan leader heard this answer, he felt extremely unsettled. What was the meaning of this? Can you not torture me like this? Give him a quick one. Unfortunately, Lung Ruashue did not know what the Centipede clan leader was thinking, and Qingju did not tell her either. However, she could more or less sense the Centipede clan leader's gloominess. She chuckled evilly and continued to ask, Since you are the leader of the Centipede clan, where are your clansmen? Call them out for me to see. Lung Ruashue didn't want to leave any hidden dangers behind. Since she had captured the Centipede clan leader, she naturally had to deal with his clansmen to avoid any trouble. I don't have any clansmen. I'm the only one in my clan. The Centipede clan leader replied honestly. When Lung Ruashue heard this, she was conflicted. You're alone, and you still have the nerve to call yourself the clan leader? You're clearly a commander with a pole. What about them? Where are the clansmen? Lung Ruashue did not give up. She pointed at the dead spiders and ants. They don't have it either. The Centipede clan leader said, a little embarrassed. Lung Ruashue did not know what to say. Seeing Lung Ruakshu's distrustful gaze, the Centipede clan leader was so scared that his heart was trembling. He quickly explained, It's like this. The lifespans of insect-type beasts from the deity world are extremely short. Not only are we weak, but we also have many natural enemies. Therefore, it's extremely difficult for us to survive in the deity world. Tens of thousands of years have passed, and our clansmen have either died or been killed. Now, there are only 3 of us left in our branch. Sob, we're very miserable. As he spoke, the Centipede clan leader wanted to play the emotional card again. However, Lung Ruashue was completely unmoved. She only subconsciously glanced at Song. Seeing Song nod, Lung Ruashue then stopped doubting the Centipede clan leader's words. Then, she took out a rope and tied up the Centipede tribe leader, who was tactful and did not struggle, firmly. She then threw him into the house with the other 2 behemoths. After she was done, Lung Ruashue smiled at Song and said, Song, can we leave this time? Yes. However, there's still some collections of the 3 beastie in this mountain. We have to steal them. Azure smiled evilly. I know the place. The Blood Lotus hurriedly said upon hearing this. When Lung Ruashue heard this, she felt a little sympathy for the Centipede clan leader's 3 beasties. They were protecting a little flower who was a traitor. However, this was good. It was very much to her liking. Following that, under Xiao Hua's guidance, the Centipede clan leader, and the other two beast collection became Lung Ruashuas. The three beasts had collected a lot of good things over the years, including countless high-quality medicinal herbs. However, according to the Blood Lotus Flower's complaint, these medicinal herbs were collected by the three of them to give to the Mist Ripple bitch. When Lung Ruashua heard this, she felt even more at ease. It would be a waste not to take Fog's things. After tidying up the treasures of the three beastie, Lung Ruashua was prepared to let Song bring her home, who knew that Song would wave his hand and ask her to wait. Then, she heard Song raise his voice and roar at the sky. "Wavering bitch, I sold your petals for 1 jingsher each, and the Blood Lotus Flower that you've been coveting now belongs to me. Ha ha ha." This arrogant laughter, accompanied by the pressure Song Yin released, spread throughout the entire divine realm. Upon hearing this, Lung Ruashua broke out in cold sweat. Why didn't he run away after doing something bad? Why did he announce it to the world? However, in the entire immortal realm, only Azure would dare to do this. He just didn't know if Fog would be so angry that she would vomit blood after hearing these provocative words. Lung Ruashua was suddenly filled with anticipation. The facts proved that she had guessed correctly. At this moment, although Wu Xiao had been healing in seclusion, Song's voice was too powerful. The barrier she had set up could not block it at all. Therefore, when the voice entered her ears, she, who was healing, spat out a mouthful of dark red blood and fainted from anger. By the time she woke up and teleported to the mountain where the Blood Lotus Flower grew, the mountain was already empty. The extremely furious Wu Xian was so angry that she directly used her divine power to bombard the innocent mountain. In the end, she fainted beside the broken mountain rocks. The frightened subordinates then hurriedly carried her back to the Divine Master's estate. At the same time, in the Lung family's residence in the Land of Demons, there was a long silence because of the provocative words that came from the sky not long ago. At that time, Uncle Long and the others were chatting in the living room. The people present at that time included the Ascender Alliance's chief, Enli Jing. As they did not see Lung Ruashua, they did not leave. However, just as everyone was having a good time chatting, the sudden voice gave them a big shock. Thanks in comparison, Uncle Long and the others were still calm. Although they were breaking out in cold sweat, the Ascender Alliance's master and Li Jing had already turned pale and ashen, because the petals of Rime Ice were bought by the two of them. If this matter was known by Wu Yin, she would probably come to settle the score with them. After an unknown period of time, the Alliance Master's question finally came from the silent living room. "That voice just now, was it Miss Lung's little white cat?" "Yes, I am." Uncle Long looked at the Alliance Master sympathetically. He had heard from the Alliance Master that Song had sold 2 petals to him and Li Jinkai to save them. When he thought of this, he immediately consoled her. "Don't worry, no one will know that you bought the petals of the Mist Ripple bitch. Can you not call her a bitch in front of them?" The Alliance Master couldn't help but feel disgusted. He really couldn't take it anymore. Although he didn't have a good impression of Wu Chun, this illegitimate master god, at least on the surface, he would still respect her. But now, these guys in front of him had to add the word bitch when they talked about Wu Chun, which made him quite uneasy. However, he also knew that the other party would not care about his thoughts. Therefore, he only thought about it in his heart and did not intend to say out such a request that would obviously annoy the other party. After some thought, he couldn't help but ask, "Who is that little white cat? It's so gutsy." When he said this, he couldn't help but wipe off his cold sweat. He couldn't deny that he was really a little frightened. "Do you know Tsong? That little white cat is Tsong." Uncle Long didn't intend to hide it and told the truth. "Tsong? Are you talking about the god-protecting pagoda, Ling Tsong?" The Alliance Master's eyes suddenly widened as he spoke in disbelief. Anyone who had lived in the Divine Realm for a long time would know of Tsong's great name. However, he had never thought that the little white cat would be Tsong. Uncle Long nodded and didn't say much. On the other hand, the Alliance Master was still in shock. His mouth was half open, and after a long time, he finally said, "Wasn't it said that Azure doesn't have a master? Then what is its relationship with Miss Lung?" Song has acknowledged little Shui as his master. Why? Haven't you heard? Uncle Long pretended to be surprised, then put on a look of realization. It's not strange that you didn't hear about it. How could the ripple, which lets such an important piece of news spread? And our Shui keeps a low profile. She's never willing to show off about these things. Hearing Uncle Long's words, the Alliance Master didn't know what to feel. In fact, he really wanted to ask, Sir, aren't you showing off by saying this? However, he knew that he must not offend his master in her territory. At the same time, he felt that he should reconsider Lung Ruoxu's position. From the looks of it, if the Ascender Alliance wanted to befriend Lung Ruoxu, they were obviously trying to climb up the social ladder. However, he was not willing to make the Ascender Alliance think that they were beneath Lung Ruoxu. After all, he was an extremely proud person. This fact made him feel rather conflicted. He didn't even know what to do. However, he was even more unwilling to give up the chance to befriend Lung Ruoxu. The Alliance Master fell silent again. Uncle Long and the others also knew that the General Lord had suffered too much today, so they ended their conversation considerately and arranged for the General Lord and Li Jing to rest. Without outsiders, Uncle Long and the others were able to chat more freely. He didn't know where Shui had been taken by Tsang. There's no news either. Uncle Long said with a bitter expression. Who said it wasn't he? That detestable girl. Isn't she afraid that we'll be worried? At the mention of this, the master of the Ning family gritted his teeth in hatred, but he couldn't contact Shui, so he couldn't do anything. However, he was very clear that the reason he couldn't contact Shui was definitely Tsang's doing. Because other than him, no one else had such great ability. It can't be considered as no news. Didn't Azure mention the blood lotus flower before? Dongfang you couldn't help but interject when he heard the two old men's complaints. But then he received angry glares from Uncle Long and Master Ning. And then he heard the two angry, handsome old men shout in unison, Do you know where the blood lotus flower is? Hearing this, Dongfang you could only keep his mouth shut. Sob, I can't afford to offend a jealous old man. Seeing that Dongfang you was being honest, Uncle Long felt that it was not interesting, so he left the living room in a huff. After he took the lead and left, the people present also left one by one. At this moment, Lung Ruoxu had no idea that her family was in a small argument because of her whereabouts. Tsang, where are we going? Aren't you going home? Seeing Tsang bring her to a foreign city, Lung Ruoxu was lost. Chapter 2707. Madam, I know I was wrong. One go back. However, let's go do something else before we go back. Azure smiled evilly. What? Lung Ruoxu was very puzzled. Was Tsang still not satisfied after taking away the blood lotus flower that the ripple mist slut had taken a fancy to? What else do you want to do? It had to be said that Lung Ruoxu was right again. In reality, ever since Lung Ruoxu and the others were attacked by the fog, Azure had been holding back a grudge. It was just that it had been holding back and not looking for trouble with the fog. It was so patient because it was waiting for the day the blood lotus flower ripened. It had long decided that the moment the blood lotus flower ripened would be the moment when it would feel the most heartache. After all, who would be able to stand the fact that something that they had been looking forward to for tens of thousands of years now belonged to someone else? But now it felt that since it had stolen the blood lotus flower, it could do something else in passing. In any case, they were all rhyme ice, so it was the same as stealing one, and it was the same as stealing two. In that case, it didn't seem like it was a big deal to get more. With this thought in mind, it brought Lung Ruoxu back here. Of course, this was only their first stop. After all, it was the closest to the nameless mountain where the blood lotus flower resided. Girl, I remember you saying that you've recruited all the guild leaders in the godly continent. Azure asked with a smile. Yes. Lung Ruoxu nodded. This matter was no longer a secret in the Devil's Land. What's the use of guilds that do quests in the godly continent? If you want to accept us, then accept those from the divine realm. You bastard, wiping out all the guild quests in the divine realm is the same as cutting off half of the arm of that wastrel. Azure couldn't help but remind him. You're here for the Divine Realms Quest Guild? Lung Ruashue was enlightened. Why would Azure come to an unfamiliar city for no reason? It turned out that he had the intention of taking on the guilds here for quests. However, wouldn't it be a little dangerous to take in all the quests in the Divine Realm? However, Lung Ruashue truly felt that this was a good idea, especially after she had a taste of the benefits in the godly mainland. However, the guild had also accepted the Divine Realms quest. She had never thought about it before. Oh, it wasn't that she hadn't thought about it, but it was only for a moment. After all, she was still afraid of alerting the enemy. She didn't want to drive that bitch, Wu Cheng, crazy, but looking at Song's current thoughts, it was clear that he wanted to drive Wu Cheng crazy. Or it could be said that it had already driven the mist Ripple crazy. When she thought of this, Lung Ruashue didn't wait for Song to reply, and couldn't help but ask, Azure, you've completely angered Rhyme by snatching away the Blood Lotus Flower. Shouldn't we return to Demon City first to guard against the sneak attack of that wretched Rhyme? Don't worry, she doesn't even have the ability to launch a sneak attack now. That bitch was so angry at our little tricks that she vomited blood and even fainted a few times. Song covered his mouth with his furry little paws and laughed secretly. Ugh, you vomited blood because of your little tricks, right? Lung Ruashue could swear that she really did not do anything. She had been completely abducted by Song. However, she was on Song's side, so it didn't seem like there was any point in denying it. This was because Wu Jing must have already determined that she was also involved. For what you've said, the Ripple Mist bitch's injuries must have worsened. Why don't we sneak attack her? Lung Ruashue suggested after some thought. Take her life while she's sick. What a classic saying. Girl, although I agree with your opinion, you should know that a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. It won't do us any good if we sneak attack her now. If she decides to go all out and fight to the death, we'll both suffer heavy losses, and that's not the result I want. Azure calmly analyzed. After hearing Wan Song's opinion, Lung Ruashue calmed down. That's right. With the crazy personality of the Rhyme people, they might really fight to the death with them. Of course, that was if they forced the other party into a corner. Thanks, but what they were doing now was not enough to drive Wu Chen crazy. Lung Ruashue was conflicted and at a loss. For a moment, she did not know what to do. Song saw through Lung Ruashue's thoughts and smiled. Girl, although the Blood Lotus Flower is very important to Wu Yin, it's not enough for her to fight to the death. Based on my understanding of her, she must be thinking about snatching the Blood Lotus Flower back one day. So, this is not a dead end for her. But once we make her lose her way out, she will definitely not let us have an easy time. AI, I know that bitch too well. All right, it'll do as you say. Cold's words made Lung Ruashue unable to refute. Azure nodded in satisfaction, then pointed at the city gate with his claw. Let's start from here on the quest to conquer the Divine Realm. Let's go. Oh, set off. Let's go. Suddenly, a young and tender voice rang out. Lung Ruashue's face was filled with black lines. This little flower that had always been in Song's arms, he didn't expect her to be so eager to see the world in chaos. Moreover, it didn't know who it had inherited its boisterous and lively personality from. Let's go. Lung Ruashue was speechless. Just like that, a man, a beast, and a flower began their journey to subdue the Divine Realm Mission Guild. Half a month later, other than the headquarters of the Mission Guild in Imperial City, all the other mission guilds in the Divine Realm were now in Lung Ruashue's possession. Lung Ruashue had earned a lot from those mission guilds. Of course, for the sake of the Mission Guild's business of infernal affairs, she had left some resources for the Mission Guild. Otherwise, the Divine Master's residence would have been suspicious. With Azure's violent cooperation, the guild leaders of the major cities' quest guilds had almost no chance to resist and were obediently captured. Lung Ruashue was naturally happy to be at ease. After sweeping through the entire God Realm, Lung Ruashue, who thought that she could go home, was in a mess when she found out that Song was going to the Imperial City and had taken over the guild headquarters. The Rhyme bitch had just been provoked, and now they're taking the initiative to send themselves to her door. If Rhyme were to know that the two of them had gone to the Imperial City, She wondered if she would come and chase after them with her injuries. Lung Ruoxue was suddenly curious. However, she was still unwilling to waste her time in the headquarters of the imperial city. She was a little homesick. More importantly, she knew very well that when she returned home, her godfather and the others would probably complain again. Sob. Thinking of this, she was a little sad. Azure, are you sure you want to go to the imperial city? Lung Ruoxue knew that it would be hard to convince Tsong, who was in high spirits, so she could only ask. Of course, we've already come this far, so how can we return empty-handed? Tsong heavily nodded. Yes, they were now very, very close to the imperial city, only less than 1,000 meters away. If the guards were more focused, they might be able to discover their presence. Lung Ruoxue could not help but secretly praise them. But now the attention of the city guards was obviously not on them. In other words, she didn't expect the two of them to dare to come to U City. Then it'll change my appearance. Jian Song's will was very firm. So Lung Ruoxue could only give up her life to accompany him. Why are you changing your appearance? When Azure heard this, he blinked his eyes and a puzzled expression appeared on his face. Chapter 2708. Madam, I'm sorry too. You don't want us to enter the city like this, do you? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Song had previously said that they couldn't provoke Rhyme now. If they really went in like this, wouldn't Wu Cheng go crazy? Can I? Azure asked innocently. Lung Ruoxue looked at Song, then glanced at the little red flower that it had been holding in its arms. She sighed and said, Do you think we're suitable to enter the defense city in our current state? She was in Wu Xiao's eyes, and Song was seen as a life and death enemy by Wu Xiao. In addition, the blood lotus flower in Song's arms had been coveted by Wu Xiao for a long time. This man, beast, and flower was definitely sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth. Of course, the tiger was only injured, but there was no guarantee that the tiger would not come to catch them when it heard that they were coming. Such a fact made Lung Ruoxue extremely confused. Previously, Azure had said that they couldn't take advantage of someone's illness to launch a sneak attack, as that might make the other party desperate. However, at this moment, wouldn't what they were prepared to do make the other party go crazy? Lung Ruoxue deeply felt that as long as Wu Chun found out that they had entered the imperial city, that old woman would definitely appear with injuries. At that time, I'm afraid I won't be able to avoid it even if I want to. She even suspected that although Tsong said that he couldn't take advantage of Wu Xiao's serious injuries to launch a sneak attack, he still hadn't given up on the idea of angering her to death. It had to be said that angering the other party to death was indeed much easier than a sneak attack. I don't think it's inappropriate at all. Girl, we're going to use City to do something, not to fight with Wu Yin. I think, with her current injuries, as long as we don't provoke her, she won't easily make a move. That person is very patient. You have to believe in her self-control. Song knew Lung Ruoxue's thoughts and comforted her. Ugh, wasn't this considered a provocation? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. However, she knew that in Song's heart, as long as they didn't attack the Divine Master's estate, it definitely wouldn't be considered a provocation. Moreover, the things they had to do in the guild for the mission. All right, it was not a provocation if it was not exposed. In normal business dealings, the Divine Master's estate couldn't possibly not make any money. Just like that, Lung Ruoxue calmed down. Then, she carried Song, and Song carried the red blood lotus flower. The human, beast, and flower swaggered towards the entrance of the imperial city. When they arrived at the imperial city's gate, the guards' eyes almost popped out of their sockets when they saw Lung Ruoxue. Their mouths were half open, and they could not form a complete sentence for a long time. And it wasn't just one guard. The guards at the city gate all looked like they had seen a ghost when they saw her. Their incomparably shocked and incredulous gazes caused Lung Ruoxue to feel depressed. AI, this was the tragedy of being famous. He would be recognized wherever he went, especially when he was in the enemy's territory. I want to enter the city. After feeling depressed, Lung Ruoxue immediately adjusted her state of mind. She glanced at the guard and deliberately put on a noble and cold appearance as she spoke calmly. Thanks. Upon hearing this, The guards instantly went into a frenzy and caused a commotion. After the commotion, the guard leader braced himself and asked with a vigilant look, "What are we doing in the city? Do you need to ask so clearly? In the past, Imperial City didn't need to do this." Lung Roashue pretended to be unhappy. "This is a new rule," the leader of the guards said blindly, but he couldn't help but think in his heart. Others can choose not to ask, but you, a dangerous terrorist, can't not ask. "Oh, I'm going into the city to look for the Guild of Quests. I have a quest to issue." Hearing the guard's words, Lung Roashue was kind and did not expose him. Instead, she cooperated and took the initiative to explain. When he heard that Lung Roashue was here to issue a mission to the guild, the guard leader was instantly relieved. However, after he calmed down, he felt that something was not quite right. "Wait a minute. You don't have to come to Imperial City to issue a mission, right?" One had to know that branch guilds for missions were everywhere in the divine realm. Why did he have to come here? With that thought, the guard leader began to doubt Lung Roashue's motive and asked, "The guild has quests everywhere. Why did you come to Imperial City?" These words were met with Lung Roashue's extremely disdainful gaze. Following that, the guard leader heard Lung Roashue sneer, "My mission level is too high, so I can only come to the headquarters." Oomph. If it wasn't for the fact that the mission was always in your city, I really wouldn't want to come here. Why don't you suggest that we change the location of the mission headquarters? If that's the case, I wouldn't have come. Always changing places? Did he dare to mention it? The leader of the guards was incited by Lung Roashue's words and instantly wilted. He explained with a smile, I just wanted to ask more clearly. I don't have any other meaning. Who asked you to be a terrorist?" He had to be on guard. "Understand. I know that my relationship with Rhyme Ice has given you a headache in the past, but please believe in my sincerity. This time, I came to Imperial City only to find a mission guild to issue a mission." Lung Roashue was very understanding. The expression on her beautiful face was so sincere, causing the guard leader to feel guilty. He truly felt that he shouldn't have suspected Lung Roashue. If she really wanted to cause trouble, would she have obediently entered the city through the city gate? However, even if he believed Lung Roashue's words, he didn't dare to make the decision to let her into the Imperial City. He could only smile carefully and say, "Miss Lung, I can't make the decision if you want to enter the city. You have to go back and ask for instructions. Can you please wait for a moment?" "Sure." Lung Roashue smiled and nodded. At the same time, she transmitted a message to Azure. "Song, do you see? They don't trust us and are not willing to let us enter the city. Calm down. They won't dare to offend us at this time, so don't worry. They'll let us in," Azure said with confidence. Seeing how confident Song was, Lung Roashue naturally didn't say anything more. However, after the guard leader sent the news of Lung Roashue's arrival at the Imperial City back to the Divine Master's residence, it caused everyone in the Divine Master's residence to be in a state of panic. When Xia Yi and the other two hierarchs saw this, they could only hold an emergency meeting to discuss this matter. However, after a long discussion, they still could not come to a conclusion. Not only were their opinions unable to reach a consensus, but they were also divided into several groups. There were those who agreed to let Lung Roashue into the city to settle some matters, and there were also those who requested to reject her. There were even those who maintained a neutral stance. The number of people in these three groups was similar, so it was difficult to make a final decision in a short time. In the end, Xia Yi and the other two Reverend God level experts were left with no choice. According to their original intention, they could let Lung Roashue into the Imperial City. However, as the Reverend God of the Divine Master's estate, her every word and action would attract too much attention. Hence, they could not voice their opinions at will. Otherwise, they might even incur the Divine Master's dissatisfaction. After thinking for a long time, the three Reverend Gods unanimously decided to let the Divine Master make the decision. After sending a guard to inform the black-robed man who was guarding the entrance of the Divine Master's secret room, Xia Yi and the other two felt that their mission was complete and went back to their own business. When a man in black found out that Lung Roashue had come to Imperial City, his first thought was that this was a matter of great importance. In addition, the Divine Master had said before he went into seclusion to heal his injuries that unless it was an extremely important matter, he was not to disturb her. Chapter 2709. Madam, am sorry. 3. The man in black was naturally aware of the grudges between the Divine Master and Lung Ruoxue. Hence, after sensing that the situation was extremely troublesome, he immediately entered the secret chamber for further instructions. Wu Yan's face was pale. She was sucking blood to heal her injuries. When she heard that Lung Ruoxue had come to the Imperial City, she was so agitated that she spat out a mouthful of blood. The man in black was so frightened that he knelt down immediately. "Oomph. She still dare to come here? You're really not afraid of death." Wu Mo's small face was pale and bloodless. She narrowed her beautiful eyes and said with some resentment, "If it wasn't for Lung Ruoxue, how would she be injured? If it wasn't for Tsang's provocation, how could her injuries have worsened?" But now, not only did those people not know how to hide, but they also dared to approach her. They were really tired of living. Mist gritted her teeth in hatred, and at the same time, a bone-piercing pain came from the bottom of her heart, causing her face to turn even paler. How detestable! If she wasn't injured, she would have captured Lung Ruoxue and tortured her in every way possible before sucking her fresh blood dry. She believed that Lung Ruoxue's blood would be even more perfect than the blood lotus flower, since she had the chaotic divine body. However, she could only think about it now. She hated it. Delicious food was right in front of her, but she couldn't get it. If this happened to anyone, it would definitely be a fatal blow. But now, she had no choice but to endure. This was because she was very clear about her own situation. Even though that person had left the God world, she had Tsang to protect her. She could not do anything to Lung Ruoxue. Wu Yan lost her mind and roared madly. Her embarrassment turned into anger, and her face was twisted with hatred. The kneeling man in black was so scared that his whole body began to tremble. Suddenly, 2 vines with suction cups flew out of Ripple's hands and stabbed into the man's body. The man in black revealed a pained expression, but before he could scream, the man in black stopped breathing in a few seconds. After a few minutes, the man in black turned into dust and disappeared without a trace. After venting her anger, Wu Yan gradually calmed down. Then, she shouted towards the outside of the secret room, "Men, please give your orders, master." Another man in black walked in. After this black-clothed man entered the secret room, he didn't see the person who had entered before. He had already guessed that the person was most likely dead. Let Lung Ruoxue into the city and send people to keep a close watch on her. Wu Xian gritted his teeth and said she had thought it through. Even if she forbade Lung Ruoxue from entering the Imperial City, it would be useless. Not only would that fellow not listen to her, he might even force his way in. At this moment, it was obvious that he had no way of intimidating Lung Ruoxue. Since that was the case, why not fulfill her wish? Lung Ruoxue wouldn't be able to cause any big waves in his territory anyway. Wu Yan was very confident in her control of the Imperial City. Otherwise, she would not have dared to make such a decision. The man in black received the order and immediately turned to leave. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue was already getting impatient from waiting outside the city gates. "Your God Lord's estate's efficiency is so low. It's been so long, and you still haven't come to a conclusion?" Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with dissatisfaction. After she finished speaking, she even took a bite of the fruit in her hand. At this moment, she would not just stand there and wait like a fool. Instead, she had already taken out a reclining chair, a pot of tea, fruits, snacks, and other food. She ate while waiting. Seeing her like this, the guards who heard her words were all speechless. Many of the guards couldn't help but mutter to themselves, "This ancestor. You're eating and drinking. What's wrong with waiting?" He wasn't tired. Unlike them, not only were they exposed to the scorching sun, but they also had to endure the immense pressure from Lung Ruoxue and the little kitten. They were on the verge of a mental breakdown. Of course, no one dared to say this out loud. Otherwise, they would all die. However, they didn't have to wait for too long before news came from the Divine Master's estate. They had agreed to let Lung Ruoxue into the city. Hearing this, Azure smiled proudly. Girl, I told you that this mist ripple slut knows her own limits. Yes, we're here to do something, not to find trouble. Why can't she let us enter the city? Lung Ruoxue chimed in with a smile. The guards couldn't bear to listen to their conversation. After all, they were members of the Divine Master's estate. How could they listen to him calling the Divine Master a bitch in front of them? At this moment, they wished they had calluses in their ears. Otherwise, if the Divine Master knew about this, he would kill them to silence them. Sob, they truly felt that guarding the door was a life-threatening job. The guards who were cheering in their hearts excitedly sent off Lung Ruoxue and Song's team. Their eyes were filled with tears as they cheered in their hearts. They had finally sent away the terrifying woman and beast. It wasn't easy. After entering the city, Lung Ruoxue, who was walking on the streets of Yi City, could clearly feel that someone was following them in the dark. However, she did not pay much attention to it and continued to walk calmly on the busy streets. She couldn't be blamed for being so calm. After walking in the city for a while, almost all the passers-by in the city were watching them, so they could only force her to calm down. When they finally reached the headquarters, Lung Ruoxue saw the main doors and quickly entered. May I know what you need help with? When the waiter sensed that someone had entered, he gave a standard welcome speech. However, the moment he saw Lung Ruoxue's beautiful face, he forcefully swallowed the last few words. Thanks, it wasn't because of how beautiful she was, but because she was the famous Lung Ruoxue. Oh my God, Lung Ruoxue. What was Lung Ruoxue doing here? He didn't see wrong, did he? The waiter's eyes widened in disbelief. He was afraid that his eyes were playing tricks on him, so he even rubbed his eyes vigorously. In the end, he realized that Lung Ruoxue was still standing in front of him with a smile. With a bitter smile, the waiter stuttered. Miss Lung, it's welcome. Please, may I ask? After speaking for a long time, the waiter still couldn't say a complete sentence. His small face was red from holding back, and he was extremely anxious. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she only smiled faintly and said, I want to see your president. It was said that the current president of the mission headquarters was definitely a confidant of Fog Ice and was very loyal to Fog Ice. Sometimes, it seemed that his status was even higher than the 3 reverent god-level experts in the Divine Master's estate. Hence, when she found out about this, Lung Ruoxue was especially interested in this president of the headquarters. However, when the waiter heard this, he said with an awkward expression, It's not convenient for the guild leader to meet with guests right now. What's wrong? Did you get beaten up? Lung Ruoxue guessed. The waiter was speechless. He thought to himself, Miss Lung, do you have a grudge against my guild leader? Can't you think of something better? However, the waiter couldn't deny that this Miss Lung's guess was really accurate. Although the president wasn't really beaten up, he was almost beaten up. After thinking for a while, the waiter hesitated and said, The guild leader wasn't beaten up. He's just sick. You're sick? I'm the best at treating illnesses. Let me take a look at him. The moment Lung Ruoxue heard that there was a patient, she immediately perked up. The waiter didn't know what to say. Didn't they say that Lung Ruoxue didn't like to meddle in other people's business? Why was the other party's current performance so different from the legends? It's settled then. Take me to your president. I'll treat him. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but urge the waiter when she saw him standing there in a daze. Miss Lung knows how to treat illnesses? The waiter looked at Lung Ruoxue in disbelief. Ancestral secret recipe, guaranteed to cure all diseases. Lung Ruoxue said with the air of a quack. But my president's illness is not an ordinary illness. As the waiter spoke, his face revealed a look of sympathy. Then what are we waiting for? Quickly take me to your president. I promise to cure him. Lung Ruoxue promised seriously. However, the waiter's gaze was still filled with distrust. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue felt a little hurt. She looked at the waiter with hidden bitterness, causing the waiter's heart to beat wildly. Just as Lung Ruoxue was about to force the waiter to bring her to meet a certain president, the waiter could not stand the pressure from Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes and said, "I'll take you to the president." Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue was elated. He followed behind the waiter. The waiter brought Lung Ruoxue out of the headquarters and turned to the back door. After entering from the back door, they took 2 more turns and finally, they arrived at a small, desolate courtyard in the back of the headquarters. Pointing at the small courtyard, the waiter said in a low voice, "The guild leader is inside. You can go in by yourself. I won't be accompanying you." With that, the waiter immediately left. Before he left, he looked around as if he was afraid that someone would discover that he had brought Lung Ruoxue here. Seeing that the waiter was acting sneaky, Lung Ruoxue even suspected that the waiter was lying to her. However, she soon heard a slight sound coming from a room in the courtyard. It sounded like a soft cry of pain. As he walked closer to the room, the pained cries grew louder. "Io! Io!" The sound continued to enter his ears. Lung Ruoxue was stunned for a moment. Then, she pushed open the half-closed door and walked in. The room was not big. Other than a few chairs in the room, there was not a single decent piece of furniture. A man with his back facing them was sitting on a chair, his buttocks slightly jerking, looking like he was in great pain. The painful cry had come from his mouth. Sensing that someone had entered, the man with his back to the door suddenly turned around and begged for mercy. "Madam, I know I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again." Chapter 27:10 Heroes Among Women 1. The 2 of them were stunned. The man who spoke was dumbfounded, while Lung Ruoxue was speechless and shocked. Who was this pighead? Could he be the guild leader of the headquarters of the Missions Guild? At this moment, the face of the man in front of her was so swollen that one could not even see his true appearance. His eyes were only a slit, and his lips looked like 2 fat sausages hanging from them. When she saw this image not far away, Lung Ruoxue could not help but sigh. The person who created this image was really ruthless. "Are you Miao Jie, the president of the Missions Guild?" Lung Ruoxue probed. She really could not believe that the pighead in front of her was the famous Miao Jie. "Why, yes. Lung Ruoxue, what are you doing here?" Miao Jie was shocked. He was extremely shocked. He could not figure out why Lung Ruoxue would come here and even see him in this state. Sob, this was too embarrassing. At that moment, Miao Jie wished he could just kill himself. It was much better than Lung Ruoxue seeing his embarrassing state. Seeing Miao Jie's apocalyptic look, Lung Ruoxue smiled and consoled him. "President Miao, you don't have to feel embarrassed. Who doesn't have a tiger at home? AI. In this day and age, being afraid of one's wife was the way to go. So your choice is wise. How did you know?" Miao Jie tried his best to open his eyes wide to express his shock, but unfortunately his eyes were swollen. No matter how hard he tried, there was only a thin slit. However, his subtle expression at this time completely revealed his inner thoughts. He would never believe that someone would dare to tell Lung Ruoxue about his family's matters. How did she guess that there was a tigress in his family? Could it be that Lung Ruoxue had been monitoring him all along? That's why she knew everything about him. Miao Jie made wild guesses. Lung Ruoxue, on the other hand, could tell what he was thinking with a single glance. At the same time, she could not understand how a person who did not even know how to hide his expression could become the president of the headquarters of missions. Could it be that the rumors were true, that he and Wu Yin had an unclear relationship? Lung Ruoxue felt that this was not impossible. After sighing, she replied honestly, "I'm guessing." Miao Jie's face revealed an expression of obvious distrust. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Why didn't the people from the headquarters trust her? She was very honest. "Okay, AI, the scars on your face are too obvious. I'm a woman, and I know that only women like to create such scars on their men to make them behave. Hee. I'm sure President Miao Jie isn't someone who can't keep his head down, right? Otherwise, your wife wouldn't have treated you like this." After being depressed for a while, Lung Ruoxue gloated. "Who said that? Don't wrong me." Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Miao Jie was completely enraged. Boo-hoo. There's a tigress at home. How would he dare to mess around? Look, this wasn't even a big deal. He had been beaten up so badly that he could not see anyone. If he really did something, he was afraid that his little life would be lost. It doesn't matter if I wronged you or not, right? The key is whether your madam believes you or not. Lung Ruoxue reminded him. After she said that, Miao Jie was completely listless. Sob, it was because Madam didn't believe in his innocence that he was beaten up like this. Thanks, Miao Jie complained in his heart. All of a sudden, he had a flash of inspiration. His eyes, which were swollen to the point of a slit, burst out with a dazzling light. He looked at Lung Ruoxue with anticipation and said, Lung Ruoxue, you're a woman too. Can you help me? What can I help you with? Lung Ruoxue was taken aback. She truly felt that Miao Jie's train of thought was too erratic. When they first met, he was still shocked and alert. How could he ask her to help him in such a short time? Help me think of a way to make my madam believe me. Well, no matter how I tried to explain, she wouldn't believe me. I'm really going to die. As if he had found someone to confide in, Miao Jie started to cry in front of Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue was a little speechless when she saw Miao Jie sobbing and treating her like a close sister. However, she still kindly reminded him, your wife doesn't believe you. It must be because you're untrustworthy. After saying that, Lung Ruoxue deliberately paused for a few seconds to look at Miao Jie's expectant eyes. Then, she continued, actually, I'm not very good at dealing with family problems. Besides, I have something important to tell you. What is it? As long as you help me solve my problems, I will help you deal with your own. Miao Jie immediately coaxed him. Really? Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and asked with a smile. Of course. It had to be real. Just help me. As long as you can find a way to make the tigress at home believe me, then you're my savior. Miao Jie began to flatter Lung Ruoxue. However, Lung Ruoxue was not a 3-year-old child. She would not easily believe Miao Jie's promise, so she did not say anything. Instead, she grabbed an old chair not far away, cleaned the dust, and sat down. Looking at Lung Ruoxue's nonchalant actions, Miao Jie felt a little worried. After choking for a while, Miao Jie began to persuade again. Lung Ruoxue, please help me think of a way. Whoa, I'm really at my wit's end. If I had any tricks on my sleeve, I wouldn't have come to you for help. I told you I'm not good at dealing with family problems. Why are you looking for me? Lung Ruoxue continued to put on a cold and noble look. Didn't you just make in time? If I look for someone else instead of you, you'll lose face again. Miao Jie's words sounded like he was going all out, but Lung Ruoxue was speechless, so it wasn't embarrassing to ask her for help. Just because she had already seen the other party's embarrassing state? AI, what the hell is this? Actually, Lung Ruoxue was quite happy to see Miao Jie in trouble. Although that guy was not related to him, he was still a member of Fog City. She was happy that the people of Fog City were unlucky. However, she didn't forget why she was here. So, she put on a thoughtful look. After thinking for a while, she said to Miao Jie, it's not that I can't help you think of a way, but can you really help me solve my problem? Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Miao Jie suddenly felt that he had made his promise too early. With this thought in mind, he carefully asked, what do you want to see me for? Secret. Tell me first if you can help me solve it. Lung Ruoxue wasn't that stupid to tell him her thoughts right now. What if this guy went back on his word? As long as you don't ask me to do anything like murder or arson, I don't think there's any problem. After hesitating for a while, Miao Jie probed. Don't worry, I won't let you kill or set fire. Lung Ruoxue's solemn promise was only for him to act as a middleman and earn some pocket money for her. Chapter 27:11. Heroes among women too. If that's the case, I promise I can do it. Miao Jie's confidence was greatly boosted. Yes, although I believe in your integrity, it's better for you to make an oath. Lung Ruoxue suggested calmly. You still need to swear? Miao Jie was surprised. Lung Ruoxue did not believe him either. However, the two sides were enemies, so it seemed natural that she didn't believe him. Without waiting for Lung Ruoxue's explanation, Miao Jie started to fill in the gaps. Seeing Lung Ruoxue nod her head, even though he was unwilling, he still followed her instructions and made an oath. After the contract's rules confirmed it, the deal of help between the two of them was officially established. After finishing this step, Miao Jie began to urge Lung Ruoxue to help him find a way to deal with the tigress at home as soon as possible. Lung Ruoxue nodded calmly and asked Miao Jie about the habits of the tigers in his family. When Miao Jie heard Lung Ruoxue's question, he naturally did not say anything and did not hold back. He explained everything in detail, and the only thing he was short of explaining was the color of his wife's undergarments. Just as Miao Jie was talking so much that Lung Ruoxue could not stop him, a furious roar suddenly came from outside the door. Miao Jie, you're good. Even in this state, you still don't forget to hook up with little girls. I think you're really tired of living. As soon as he finished speaking, a tall, burly, and rough-looking woman broke into the room. She was carrying a shoulder pole as thick as an adult's arm. Without saying a word, she smashed it towards Miao Jie's head. Lung Ruoxue barely dodged this attack. As she watched the shoulder pole smashing towards Miao Jie, she couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat for him. Ruthless. How ruthless. One look at this heroine, and one could tell that she was a strong man with infinite strength. She wondered if Miao Jie's small body could take the blow with the carrying pole. However, just as Lung Ruoxue thought that the pole was going to hit Miao Jie's head, it suddenly changed direction and hit the place where Miao Jie had the most flesh on his body. In an instant, a ghostly cry and wolf's howl could be heard. Pa! 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 After a few hits, Miao Jie was knocked out. At this moment, the intrepid woman stopped and turned to look at Lung Ruoxue. She was even sizing her up. The woman stared at Lung Ruoxue for a long time, causing Lung Ruoxue's heart to be in turmoil. Just as Lung Ruoxue was afraid that the woman would lose her cool and give her a few shoulder pulls, the woman suddenly spoke. You look familiar. Do I know you? I don't think so. Lung Ruoxue could not help but wipe away the cold sweat on her forehead. This woman's personality was just as she had portrayed herself to be straightforward and straightforward. But you really do look very familiar. The woman you did not give up. We're meeting for the first time today. Lung Ruoxue reminded. I know. I just thought you looked familiar. He didn't say he had seen you. The woman seemed to be talking to herself. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. She had misunderstood. Following that, Lung Ruoxue heard the woman say, AI. Why would a woman make things difficult for another woman? Although I don't know why you're here, don't worry, I won't hit you. Even if I have to deal with someone, ITLL be my man. Thank you for being so understanding. Lung Ruoxue's mouth twitched as she replied. Thanks, you're welcome. I just feel that you shouldn't be interested in my man. He's short, ugly, and as timid as a mouse. There are many men in the divine realm who are stronger than him. How could a beauty like you be interested in him, right? The woman continued. Lung Ruoxue didn't know how to respond to his words. She felt that this woman was very smart. On the surface, she had elevated what seemed to be her love rival and ridiculed her own man. However, in reality, her method of doing things without shedding blood had indeed caused many proud women to retreat. As for those who couldn't be returned, they were naturally those who couldn't be shown in public. At that time, this woman could do whatever she wanted. The woman in front of him could be said to be meticulous even in her rough ways. No wonder Miao Jie, the president of the mission headquarters, was so easily controlled by her. However, in order to reassure the lady, Lung Ruoxue explained calmly, I already have a fiancé. Oh, hee. Congratulations. The woman was even happier when she heard that. After she said that, she tried to probe Lung Ruoxue's intention. Lung Ruoxue had no choice but to tell her about the deal she had made with Miao Jie. When the woman heard this, she treated Lung Ruoxue as one of her own and took it upon herself. Miss, if you have any difficulties, just tell me directly. There's no need to look for him. He'll definitely help you solve it. This way, she could also prevent this beauty from coming into contact with her man. My difficulties, I have to solve the problem between the two of you first before President Miao can help me deal with it. Lung Ruoxue reminded. No need to wait for him. Just tell me directly and he'll solve it. I guarantee you'll be satisfied." The fierce-looking woman patted her chest and promised, "Are you sure the people from the headquarters will listen to you?" Lung Roashua pretended to be in disbelief as she widened her eyes and asked, "And the president's wife of the headquarters of the Missions Guild. How dare they disobey me? Oof. Whoever doesn't listen to me will spread pillow talk to my man, and I guarantee that the other party will have to bear the consequences." The woman said with confidence. Her man was henpecked, and this was not a big secret in the mission headquarters. If that's the case, they'll just tell you directly. Lung Roashua blinked her beautiful eyes and said with an innocent and uncertain expression, "Yes, you could just tell me. In the future, if you have any problems, you can come to me directly. There's no need to look for this guy." The woman reminded, "But I haven't settled your problem yet." After some thought, Lung Roashua hesitated. "What do we have to do? We're fine. You can see how close we are, right?" The woman asked, her eyes wide open. Lung Roashua took a look at the woman's rough appearance and then glanced at the unconscious Miao Jie. She could only brace herself and nod her head. This was probably the so-called beating is affection, scolding is love. This woman must be in love with Miao Jie. Lung Roashua came to an important conclusion and then threw Miao Jie to the side. She smiled at the woman and said, "I want to put a bounty on a person. Is that okay?" "Who's the bounty?" "I'll give you a 20% discount." The woman was very satisfied with Lung Roashua's tactfulness, and her impression of her became even better. "Thank you, sister. I want the reward to be fog ice." Lung Roashua said calmly, "Who do you want to put a bounty on?" The woman thought she had heard wrong, so she asked again. "Wu Yin. I want to put a bounty on Wu Yin. Although I have put a bounty on her once in the divine realm, the effect didn't seem to be very good. Until now, I haven't heard of anyone successfully completing the mission. Therefore, I would like to officially issue a mission in the Mission Guild to officially put a bounty on Rhymice. At the same time, I want to let all the major powers in the divine realm know of my sincerity. I'm not going to be stingy with my reward." Lung Roashua explained with a serious expression. Chapter 27:12. Heroes Among Women 3. The woman didn't say a word for a long time after hearing this. She was completely stunned. This little girl actually wanted to put a bounty on God, Lord Mist Ripple. She was simply too bold, wasn't she? For what she knew, Lung Roashua was the only one in the entire God world who had done such a thing. Wait a minute. Lung Roashua. This young lady was Lung Roashua? The lady tried to hide her shock as she sized up Lung Roashua again. Finally, she asked carefully, "Why you're Lung Roashua?" "Yup." Big sister finally recognized it. Lung Roashua smiled sweetly and nodded. When the woman heard this, she was completely resentful. What did she do? He actually treated Lung Roashua as a love rival. This really shouldn't have happened. She was so regretful that her intestines turned green. In the next second, the woman suddenly grabbed Lung Roashua's jade-like hand tightly and said agitatedly, "My idol, I finally have the chance to see one alive today. What's the situation?" Lung Roashua was dumbfounded. This woman's performance was too frightening. Normally, shouldn't she be regretful and fearful for recognizing him? How could he be so different? From what she said, she even saw him as an idol. If these words were to be heard by Wu Xian, Lung Roashua was very curious as to what she would think. But now, Lung Roashua felt that it was more important to deal with this intrepid woman in front of her. After half a minute of silence, Lung Roashua could not help but remind him, "Your man is the guild master of the headquarters of the Missions Guild, and he's one of Rhyme Ice's men. I have a deep hatred for Rhyme Ice, so it's not very good for you to worship me like this, right? What's not good about it? Who can care about what I think? I'm telling you, ever since I heard of your deeds, I've always yearned for you and have been friend with you for a long time. Now that I've suddenly seen you in person in front of me, I'm so happy." As the woman spoke, she even began to dance with joy. Lung Roashua broke out in a cold sweat. She was speechless and asked, "Aren't you afraid that your words will reach the ears of the mist?" "I'm not afraid. I've never been afraid of her." The woman said disapprovingly. However, if you want to put a bounty on her in headquarters, it seems a little troublesome. The woman then added. Lung Ruashua nodded to show that she understood. In reality, the bounty on the miasma was just a temporary measure. She had long known that the mission headquarters would not issue such a bounty for her, so this was originally just an excuse. Subduing the mission headquarters was her real goal. But now, when she saw the woman's sincerity and her expression of wanting to help her, she didn't know how to respond. However, it was impossible for her to soften her heart and let go of the mission. After some thought, Lung Ruashua insisted, I have to put a bounty on Rhyme at the headquarters, or no one will believe my sincerity. So it was like this. However, it's impossible for you to publish this mission in the headquarters. Why don't you ask the Dark Clan? The woman suggested after thinking for a while. Dark Clan. Lung Ruashua blinked her eyes. This wasn't the first time she had heard of this term. She had even seen people from the Dark Clan before. However, that was only on the Divine mainland. She had never seen anyone from the Dark Clan in the Divine world. The Dark family is like an underground organization that specializes in doing some shady things. There won't be any problem if you leave this matter to them. The woman promised. I'm doing this in an open and above-board manner. Lung Ruashua couldn't help but remind the woman after hearing her words. This wasn't something shameful. She dared to provoke Fog Ice, so she wasn't afraid of being found out. I know. What I mean is, as long as you can afford it, there's nothing Dark family can't do. The woman quickly changed her words. I still have to pay. Lung Ruashua furrowed her brows, her expression conflicted. If you don't pay, they won't do anything for you. After being speechless for a while, the woman said, By the way, didn't you just say that as long as you can afford it, there's nothing they can't do? Lung Ruashua confirmed. Yes, the woman gritted her teeth. She didn't know why, but after saying a simple word, she suddenly felt like she had shot herself in the foot. In reality, proved that her premonition was accurate. After Lung Ruashua confirmed, she immediately replied in a light tone, Then I'll pay for them to kill Rhyme Ice. Thanks they couldn't do this. Ancestor. The woman burst into tears upon hearing this. She wanted to kneel down in front of Lung Ruashua. They can help you with anything other than this. After a long time, the woman finally came back to her senses and said with a bitter face, But this is the only thing I need them to do. I can solve the rest by myself. Lung Ruashua said with a face of dissatisfaction, Ancestor, they really can't do this. The woman said helplessly, Then why did you say there's nothing they can't do? Wouldn't that be misleading the consumers? Is there any place to complain about them? Lung Ruashua said in a serious tone. Upon hearing this, the woman knelt down beside Lung Ruakshu's feet with a thump. She hugged Lung Ruakshu's leg and howled, Ancestor, I said the wrong thing. Can you not be like this? Woo-woo. Seeing this, Lung Ruashua broke out in cold sweat. Did it have to be so exaggerated? She had only found fault with her and made a small joke. How could this woman be so scared? A sin. I've sinned. Lung Ruashua laughed in her heart, but she still put on an innocent face and said, It seems that the so-called Dark family doesn't have much workability. Forget it. It'll just find the mission headquarters. The mission headquarters won't be able to accept your mission. The woman's eyes were filled with tears as she spoke pitifully. Do you not want to answer, or you can't? Lung Ruashua asked seriously. Is there a difference? The woman was speechless. Of course there is. If you don't want to answer it, it means you can answer it, but you don't want to answer it. If you can't answer it, it means you can't answer it at all. Do you think there's a difference? Lung Ruashua deliberately emphasized on her words, confusing the woman. In the end, the woman gave up on arguing with Lung Ruashua and told her directly, the mission will always be something you don't want to accept, and you can't accept. Otherwise, whoever receives it will be in trouble. I see. It seems like I can only use force. Lung Ruashua nodded to show that she understood. This was exactly what she wanted. Who should I use force on? At this moment, a voice interrupted their conversation. When the woman saw that Miao Jia had woken up, she was about to flare up again. However, she suddenly remembered that Lung Ruoxue was still around, so she quickly pulled Miao Jie into her arms. The man was hers, and she did not wish for her man to become an unlucky person for Lung Ruoxue to vent her anger on. Miao Jie grimaced in pain from her sudden pull, but he didn't dare to resist and let his wife hold him. Seeing that Miao Jie had woken up, Lung Ruoxue smiled and asked with concern, "You're awake? Does it still hurt? I was just talking about you with your madam. Is that so?" Miao Jie was overjoyed. He could feel that his wife had become much gentler to him. He was ready to fulfill his promise. He smiled at Lung Ruoxue and said, "What do you want to talk to me about? As long as it's not murder or arson, there's no problem." Miao Jie's promise made the woman worried. However, before she could stop him, her stupid man had already asked Lung Ruoxue to make a request. What a woman's heart! Instantly, it was in his throat. However, Miao Jie noticed the woman's nervousness and asked again, "By the way, who did you say you were going to use force on?" "The mission headquarters." Lung Ruoxue smiled and answered, "Who is it?" Miao Jie tried his best to open his swollen eyes wide, thinking that there was something wrong with his ears. Then, he tugged at his wife's sleeve and whispered, "Madam, pinch me. Am I hearing things?" "You're not hallucinating. She wants to put a bounty on Rhyme, and if the mission is always rejected, she's prepared to use force." The woman shouted at Miao Jie in exasperation. After that, she pinched his but hard, causing Miao Jie to wail in pain. This caused him to be even more injured. Miao Jie's heart trembled as he turned to look at Lung Ruoxue with a pale face. "You want to put a bounty on the God Lord of Rhyme Mist?" "Wrong. I want to put a bounty on that fog ripple bitch." Lung Ruoxue corrected him with a smile. Miao Jie was confused and asked, "What if I don't agree?" "Didn't your wife tell you? If you don't agree, he'll use force. At that time, your mission will—" "You know what I mean." Lung Ruoxue's words were definitely a threat. Miao Jie's face turned even paler in fear, and even the woman felt a little uncomfortable. At this moment, she truly felt how terrifying Lung Ruoxue was. Previously, when he talked and laughed with her, he was probably purely making fun of her. Woo! For the first time, she felt that she had kicked an iron plate. But at the same time, he was also glad that he had not done anything to offend Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. You really dare? This is the Imperial City, and the Divine Master is in the Divine Master's estate. If you act rashly, she won't let you off. After panicking for a while, Miao Jie miraculously calmed down. He hoped that he could convince Lung Ruoxue to give up on that idea. After all, this was the Divine Master's territory. Not everyone could do whatever they wanted. Who knew that when Lung Ruoxue heard this, she only smiled faintly and said, "Why would I not dare? Since I dare to come here, I've naturally made all the necessary preparations. So what if it's Imperial City? So what if Wu Xian was in the Divine Master's estate? Do you know how badly she's hurt? To tell you the truth, she doesn't have the energy to catch me even if she wanted to, because she's hiding in a secret room in the Divine Master's estate to recuperate. Sir Divine Master is injured?" Hearing this, Miao Jie and the woman were shocked and said in unison. Chapter 27:13. Just looking, not saying. Word 1. Don't you guys know? Lung Ruoxue asked in surprise when she heard what the two of them said. She didn't expect that Wu Yin would keep it a secret so well that even her legendary confidant didn't know about her injury. However, Lung Ruoxue could understand it after thinking about it. After all, this was not something to be proud of. It would be bad if too many people knew about it. After listening to Lung Ruoxue's words, the two of them shook their heads like rattledrums. Both of them had a blank and helpless expression on their faces. However, upon closer inspection, their expressions were slightly different. Miao Jie was slightly worried, while the woman seemed to be gloating. After discovering this interesting fact, Lung Ruoxue said to Miao Jie sympathetically, "President Miao, aren't you the confidant of that bitch, Ripple? Don't tell me that you don't know about her leading her men to attack us." This, Miao Jie revealed a constipated expression and was in a dilemma. How was he supposed to answer this? He knew. Of course he knew. He also knew that the result of the attack wasn't too satisfactory, but he didn't know the details. In addition, after the people who went with Lady Fog Ripple to the land of demons returned, they all had an unfathomable expression and didn't talk about anything. It made it impossible for him to get any information. And now, the news of Lady Fog being injured came from the mouth of the enemy. Wait a minute. Was Lung Ruoxue lying to him? With a suspicious expression, Miao Jie could not help but look at Lung Ruoxue. To be honest, he did not believe Lung Ruoxue's words at all. However, he didn't dare to question it too much. Otherwise, if he angered this ancestor, he would be the one in trouble. He truly felt that now that he had angered Lung Ruoxue, even if the Divine Master was in the residence, he would not be able to save her. Hence, he thought he was very obedient and treated Lung Ruoxue with respect. However, that flash of suspicion did not escape Lung Ruoxue's eyes. Lung Ruoxue laughed nonchalantly. I know you don't believe me, but do you think that I have the courage to come to you, city? Why would I lie to you? After saying this, Lung Ruoxue fell silent. When Miao Jie and his wife heard this, they looked at each other and communicated with their eyes. It had to be said that both of them believed Lung Ruoxue's words. If God Lord Fog Ripple was truly as Lung Ruoxue had said and was heavily injured, then they really had to worship Lung Ruoxue. Otherwise, if Lung Ruoxue were to make a move out of embarrassment, no one would be able to stop her. After thinking about it, Miao Jie calmed his mind and said, I believe in Miss Lung's words, and am also grateful for everything you've done for the harmony between his husband and wife. However, our mission guild really can't agree to your request, so I hope you don't make things difficult for me. Miao Jie's words were very sincere. Lung Ruoxue, on the other hand, laughed calmly. I didn't do anything for the harmony between you and your wife. At the same time, I've said that if you don't agree, they'll have to use force. So, please don't make things difficult for me. I'll be great if you cooperate, and we'll all be happy, right? To everyone's satisfaction, my ass. You're the one who's happy, aren't you? Miao Jie's heart was filled with grief and indignation, but he put on an indifferent expression on his face and said, Miss Lung, this request of yours is really difficult for me. It's not difficult at all. You just have to make a choice. Whether it's okay or not, just say it. Lung Ruoxue urged. I can't make the decision on my own. I need to discuss it with the vice president and the elders. After thinking for a while, Miao Jie thought of a way to delay. Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement and requested, There's no problem with the discussion, but I want to be an audience. This no way. Miao Jie was very depressed. If Lung Ruoxue were to listen, would their meeting still be able to continue? Thanks, however, he didn't know how to stop Lung Ruoxue. Looking at how determined she was, he was also afraid that if he was too unyielding, it would backfire. Idol, it's fine to let you listen, but no matter what the opinions of the people at the meeting are, you can't be angry. A wife knew her husband best. The tough woman who understood Miao Jie's thoughts immediately put forward her conditions. No problem. I won't say a word. You just need to discuss and come up with a result. Lung Ruoxue was very understanding. In fact, she agreed to the meeting only because she wanted to save time. After all, the mission headquarters was different from the branch. There were countless vice presidents, elders, and other higher-ups here. If she were to subdue them one by one, she might be exhausted to death. If any of the higher-ups escaped, it would definitely be detrimental to the work of the spies in the headquarters. That was why Lung Ruoxue wanted to get rid of all the higher-ups in the headquarters in one go. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue had agreed, Miao Jie's heart that was in his throat could finally be slightly at ease. However, the fierce-looking woman was not as open-minded as Miao Jie. She felt that this might be the beginning of a disaster for missions. As the president's wife of the headquarters, she was calmer than Miao Jie at all times. However, she did not have the ability to stop Lung Ruoxue from taking action against the headquarters. After giving Miao Jie a few days to prepare for the meeting, the woman arranged for Lung Ruoxue to stay in the best guest house in the mission headquarters. She even came over every day to chat with Lung Ruoxue and strengthen their relationship. This was also a chance for her man to be lenient. At least, that was what she thought. As for Lung Ruashua, she did not seem too happy about the appearance of the lady, but she was not too cold either. The two of them were chatting casually. Suddenly, Lung Ruashua asked the lady, "How's your man's injury?" "He's already fine. Because there's something important to do, I gave him a healing medicinal pill. He's now alive and kicking again," the woman said with embarrassment. When she said this, her cheeks were slightly red. Lung Ruashua looked at the woman in shock and disbelief. She originally thought that the woman would let Miao Jie's pig-like face recover naturally. After all, everyone in the mission headquarters knew that their president had been beaten up by the president's wife again. The woman felt even more embarrassed under Lung Ruashua's gaze. She took the initiative and said, "Idle, it's boring to stay in the yard all day. Why don't we go out for a walk?" "Yeah, I haven't had a good tour of the headquarters yet." Lung Ruashua nodded in agreement. She stood up and allowed the lady to bring her around the spacious and luxurious courtyard of the headquarters. As he walked, a woman's voice suddenly came from behind a rock by the side of the courtyard's path. "Guild leader, why are you always avoiding me?" Hearing this, the intrepid woman was immediately enraged. Taking out her weapon, which was her carrying pole, the tall and sturdy woman immediately turned into a fierce gust of wind, whistling and blowing behind the rockery. Then, Lung Ruashua heard a series of ghostly wails and wolf howls coming from behind the fake mountain. Sighing helplessly, Lung Ruashua sat down on a stone bench by the side of the path and silently lit a row of candles for Miao Jie. What a pitiful fellow. Why didn't he run further away if he wanted to steal fish? Chapter 27:14. Just looking, not saying, "Where to, madam?" It was a misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding. "Arg, madam, don't hit me. You hit me again." "Umph. I'm hitting you. I'll beat you to death, you shameless things." Lung Ruashua sat as she listened to the lively debate. Not long after, Miao Jie was pulled out from behind the rockery by the ear by the woman. The moment Miao Jie saw Lung Ruashua, he immediately asked for help. "Miss Lung, please help me. Help me explain. How can I help you explain when you're caught red-handed?" Lung Ruashua was speechless. "I'm innocent. Wu, I really didn't do anything. Why do you have to accuse me like this?" Miao Jie said, feeling wronged. He had been resting well behind the rockery. How could he have known that the crazy woman would suddenly appear and tell him a lot of nonsense? And just when he was about to leave, his fierce wife appeared again. Now, he would not be able to wash himself clean, even if he jumped into the endless sea. "Wrongly accused you? Umph. You've said this every time. Do you think I've wronged you?" Woman Flame roared. "Well, I didn't do it anyway," Miao Jie said as he nodded his head seriously. Lung Ruashua couldn't bear to listen to Miao Jie anymore. She truly felt that in the current situation, it did not matter whether Miao Jie was wronged every time or not. His words were destined that his explanation would be useless. Unwilling to be caught up in the couple's special interest, Lung Ruashua prepared to return to her room to rest. Of course, before she left, she did not forget to remind Miao Jie to be more efficient. Watching Lung Ruashua's back view, Miao Jie was really depressed. It seemed like his image in Lung Ruashua's heart could not be changed. "Madam," after Lung Ruashua left, Miao Jie immediately looked at the woman with a fawning smile, who knew that the woman would only snort coldly and walk away without a word. Miao Jie saw this and could only follow behind. Lung Ruashua, who had returned to the guest courtyard, was not interested in how the couple had resolved the matter. She entered her room and did not come out again. When Miao Jie sent someone to inform her that all the higher-ups were present, the meeting was set for the next morning in the council hall. When it was time for the meeting, Lung Ruashua didn't need anyone to lead the way and found the meeting hall with great familiarity. At this moment, the meeting hall was already filled with a dense crowd. Lung Ruashua could not help but sigh. There were indeed many higher-ups in the headquarters of missions. In reality, other than Miao Jie, the vice presidents and the elders, the presidents and consecrators of the various branches had also attended the meeting. Otherwise, Miao Jie would not have made Lung Ruoxue wait for so many days in vain. According to Miao Jie's idea, if there was no consensus, they would vote. The minority was subordinate to the majority. This way, he could get rid of Lung Ruoxue. It was a pity that even though his thoughts were perfect, he had clearly forgotten that Lung Ruoxue had said that if they didn't agree, she would use force. Not only that, but there was another matter that made him quite depressed. That was, the person he had sent to the Divine Master's estate to report this matter to the Divine Master had yet to return. He wondered what the Divine Master's intentions were. However, he couldn't wait any longer. If he continued to delay the meeting, Lung Ruoxue might fly into a rage at any moment. After all, it had already been a few days since he said that they would have a meeting. However, most of the higher-ups who attended the meeting were obviously not prepared to see Lung Ruoxue in the headquarters, especially when they were in a meeting. They could not help but doubt the president's intentions. Thanks, however, the branch guild leaders who had been subdued by Lung Ruoxue were exceptionally happy to see her. Of course, compared to the elders present who did not know the truth, they could not show their excitement. As for Lung Ruoxue, the moment she entered the meeting hall, she very consciously found an inconspicuous corner to sit down with Song in her arms. But even though she thought that she was very low-key, she still attracted everyone's attention. Everyone looked at her in a daze, their mouths half open, not saying a word. After a long time, Miao Jie noticed that Lung Ruoxue was too eye-catching. He had no choice but to cough a few times to get everyone's attention back. Everyone came back to their senses and felt embarrassed. They couldn't be blamed for being too surprised. It was simply because Lung Ruoxue's reputation was like thunder to the ears, too resounding. Furthermore, only the elders who had always been in the headquarters knew that Lung Ruoxue was staying in the guest courtyard of the headquarters. The majority of the people did not know about it. Hence, when Lung Ruoxue appeared in their meeting hall, everyone was surprised and felt a little uneasy. There were rumors that wherever Lung Ruoxue appeared, there would be endless trouble. Anyone who was targeted by her would be in for a bad time. So now, could it be considered that they had been targeted by this vicious wolf? The moment this thought surfaced in some of the elders' minds, they looked at Lung Ruoxue as if they had seen a man-eating demon. Their eyes were filled with horror. Lung Ruoxue expressed her innocence in this regard. She had always thought of herself as a pacifist and a peace-loving person. Why were the people here looking at her as if she was a terrorist with a virus? She felt very wronged. Okay? He glanced at Miao Jie with hidden bitterness, causing Miao Jie's little heart to tremble in fear. He calmed himself down and suddenly shouted, "A meeting! Everyone quiet down!" When the people present heard this, they collectively broke out in a cold sweat. It was already very quiet, okay? Everyone was looking at Lung Ruoxue in shock. He didn't have the time to make irresponsible remarks. However, it was undeniable that Miao Jie's shout had brought back the three souls that had been scared away by Lung Ruoxue. After calming himself down, a young vice president of the headquarters of missions echoed, "Let's start the meeting." Hee. A meeting. Right, a meeting. The crowd laughed foolishly in agreement. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she was very suspicious that the mission would always be led by these people. How far could they go? However, she had promised Miao Jie that she would not say a word. So, unless it was necessary, she would only look and not speak today. Miao Jie did not know where to start. Thus, he fell silent again after he started. When the higher-ups saw that the head guild master had stopped speaking, no one dared to interrupt. For a moment, everyone's eyes widened. After some time, Miao Jie finally felt that the atmosphere was a little off. He suddenly remembered that they were in a meeting. When he raised his head, he saw the warning in Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes. He forced himself to focus and coughed a few more times to clear his throat. "Today, I have something important to discuss with everyone. I hope that everyone can take their own opinions and speak your mind." "Guild leader, what's the matter?" An elder could not help but ask. "Miss Lung wants to post a mission in our mission guild." After taking a deep breath, Miao Jie said it all in one breath. Chapter 27:15. Just looking, not saying. Word 3. Then release it? Is it worth calling all of us back for such a small matter? Guild leader, I still have important matters to attend to. One of the elders said in dissatisfaction. My matter is more important than yours. All of you must give your opinions. Shut up. Miao Jie shouted angrily when he heard that. All right, who asked you to be the president? Of course we have to listen to you. Now, can Mr. President tell us what the mission is? The dissatisfied elder said in a strange tone. Lung Ruoxue saw this and knew that some of the elders were not convinced by Miao Jie. She could not help but feel glad that she had summoned all the higher-ups back. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. When Miao Jie heard the elder's words, although he was also very angry, he still held it in and said to everyone present, Young Lady Long wants to put a bounty on God Lord Fog Ripple. Zhao Feng said. As soon as he said that, the entire meeting hall fell silent. Even the sound of breathing could not be heard. The crowd was obviously petrified by his words. Now, tell us your opinions. Are we going to accept this mission or not? Seeing that everyone was shocked, Miao Jie finally felt better. Otherwise, it would be unfair if he was the only one who was shocked. President, this mission, the elder who had a bad opinion of Miao Jie wanted to reject the mission immediately. However, he suddenly remembered that Lung Ruoxue was here as well, so he swallowed the words can't accept back into his stomach. Then, he looked as if he was constipated, and his face turned red. Elder Qi, can I accept this mission? Seeing this, Miao Jie knew what was going on, but he still asked this on purpose. No, you can't take it. Under everyone's gaze, Elder Qi, who had been called out by Miao Jie, braced himself and said, Sob, what a bully. Why did he only ask him and not the others? Elder Qi secretly complained to himself. At this moment, he had long forgotten that he was the one who provoked Miao Jie first. When Miao Jie heard this, he only smiled faintly and said, But Miss Lung insisted that we accept this mission. I can't make the decision myself, so I called back your guild's higher-ups to discuss this matter. Do you still think of making a mountain out of a molehill now? I never thought that way. Elder Qi said in a low voice. However, Miao Jie obviously did not care about what he said. He only emphasized that he wanted them to come to a conclusion after a serious discussion so that they could give Lung Ruoxue an explanation. Everyone present, other than the branch presidents who had been subdued by Lung Ruoxue, had long faces. They truly felt that their president was making things difficult for them. In reality, if Lung Ruoxue wasn't here, they might be more at ease when they discussed this matter. However, when they thought of how Lung Ruoxue was sitting by the side and watching them discuss, they didn't dare to speak carelessly. It would be a wonder if he wasn't hated by that demon. As a mission association and an organization that was known for gathering information, they understood Lung Ruoxue more than anyone else. In addition, the mission association was under the jurisdiction of the Divine Master's estate. They had the advantage of time, location, and people. Hence, almost every elder in the mission association knew that Lung Ruoxue was not someone to be trifled with. As such, no one was willing to stand out and be the villain. However, if they didn't want to be evil, they had to pretend to be deaf and mute. For a time, many elders decided to be completely mute to avoid getting into trouble. Seeing that the elders didn't say anything, the branch president and the priest felt that there was no room for them to speak, so they pretended to be mute with peace of mind. You guys should say something. Seeing that everyone was silent for a long time, Miao Jie shouted angrily. In his heart, he was cursing the people in front of him. Trash. A bunch of trash. They wouldn't be able to see them at the critical moment. Guild leader, it's up to you to decide. Well, I'll follow your lead. Seeing Miao Jie's anger, one of the branch presidents, who had received Lung Ruoxue's signal, immediately said in a fawning manner. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone agreed with him. Miao Jie was so angry that he almost passed out. Miao Jie's old face was red as he pointed at the elders in front of him with a trembling finger. He stammered for a long time and did not say a word. In the end, perhaps it was because of anger, his eyes suddenly rolled back and he fainted. When everyone saw this, they were all frightened and rushed forward in a hurry, trying to wake Miao Jia up with all kinds of means. Damn it! Why did he faint at such a time? The elders were panicking, while Lung Ruoxue was completely speechless. Did he think that she didn't know that Miao Jia was pretending to faint? Standing up, Lung Ruoxue shouted, "Get out of my way!" In the best at treating unconscious patients. Upon hearing this, the elders who had surrounded Miao Jia immediately dispersed to both sides like a tide, giving way to Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue took elegant steps and slowly walked to Miao Jia. Then, she took out a handful of silver needles that were twice as thick as chopsticks and shone with a beautiful luster. "What thick silver needles?" someone exclaimed in surprise. Thanks. When the elders around Miao Jia saw the silver needle, they all subconsciously swallowed their saliva and took a big step back. At the same time, they thought to themselves, if this needle were to be inserted, would the president still be able to stand it? Please don't take his old life. Just as he was thinking about this, the elders saw Lung Ruoxue waving the silver needle in front of Miao Jia's eyes. Then, she gestured on his body, as if she was looking for a place to lower her hand. The silver needles cast a shadow on Miao Jia's body. Miao Jia, who was pretending to be unconscious, was so scared that his heart trembled. Even though his eyes were closed, he could clearly feel the waves of cold air coming from the surroundings and the elders' cries of surprise. From this, it could be seen that the silver needles in Lung Ruoxue's hands were definitely not good things. Where should I start? Hearing Lung Ruoxue's mumbling, Miao Jia was so scared that he could no longer pretend. He opened his eyes and sat up straight. "I am already fine." Looking at the thick silver needle in front of him, Miao Jia, who had just opened his eyes and did not dare to pretend to be unconscious, was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. What a thick needle. That was close. Silently wiping away the cold sweat on his forehead, Miao Jia's heart was still fluttering with fear. If the needle were to be inserted, there would definitely be a hole in his body. This was not a joke. Miao Jia carefully put on a smile and looked at Lung Ruoxue with a fawning expression. He was as obedient as a little beast. Lung Ruoxue, on the other hand, was worried and asked, "You're really done?" "All right, I'm done." Miao Jia swallowed his saliva and answered Lung Ruoxue's question cautiously. "Are you sure?" Lung Ruoxue asked again. Yes. Miao Jia nodded his head furiously, afraid that Lung Ruoxue would stab him if he answered too slowly. "If that's the case, you guys can come up with a conclusion within half an hour," Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. She no longer wanted to continue playing hide and seek with them. In any case, now that everyone was in a neat formation, it was a good time to make a move. Half an hour? When Miao Jia and the other elders heard this, their faces turned ugly. It was obvious that half an hour was too short for them. Just half an hour, not even a minute more. From now on, I want to know your opinions after half an hour. Lung Ruoxue's attitude was very firm. "Miss Lung, half an hour is not enough." As the president, Miao Jia couldn't just stand by and watch. He had to stand out even if he didn't want to. "Half an hour isn't enough? What about half a year?" Lung Ruoxue asked casually. Half a year? Miao Jia was about to say that half a year was more like it. At least it would buy them some time. However, before he could finish his sentence, he was immediately interrupted by Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue's voice was extremely cold. "It'll give you half an hour, but you think it's too short. It'll give you half a year, and you'll definitely find all kinds of excuses to delay it. So, don't waste everyone's time and quickly decide." Faced with Lung Ruoxue's non-negotiable expression, Miao Jia and the rest were so conflicted that their intestines were about to be tied up. However, Lung Ruoxue did not care about their feelings and only reminded them indifferently. "It's been 5 minutes. You have 25 minutes to discuss." Lung Ruoxue's unyielding attitude made Miao Jia and the others at a loss. However, they had been in high positions for many years, so they quickly adjusted their mentality and communicated privately. Some elders suggested asking for help from the Divine Lord's estate. After all, the Divine Lord's estate looked like it was about to start a fight. However, Miao Jie regretfully told him that he had sent someone to the Divine Master's estate a few days ago to report this matter to the Divine Master, but there had been no news from the person he had sent. When the elder heard this, he immediately wilted. At this moment, Elder Qi jumped out again and sent a voice transmission in anger. Guild leader, I don't understand why we are so afraid of Lung Ruoxue. She's only one person while we have so many people. Can't you take her down? What if she doesn't only have her own? Miao Jie reminded as he glanced at the brainless Elder Qi. This time, Elder Qi did not dare to say anything, and secretly complained, that's right. Legend had it that Lung Ruoxue was extremely cunning. She shouldn't have the guts to venture into the tiger's den alone. Could it be that there was really an ambush outside the city? But when he returned to the city, he didn't sense any stranger's aura. Of course, he didn't dare to say this out loud because he really didn't dare to take the risk. If his words caused everyone to lower their guard against Lung Ruoxue, wouldn't he become the center of the mission association? It had to be said that all the elders present had their own thoughts. None of them were willing to take the lead, and half an hour's time passed in a flash. Time's up. Give me an answer. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. Miss Lung, can we have a proper talk? Miao Jie didn't dare to strain the relationship between the two parties, so he asked with a smile. Chapter 27:16. I quite despise you guys, one. What else do we have to talk about? Originally, I only wanted to issue a mission, but you guys kept pushing it back with all sorts of excuses. Fine. Seeing that you were once my master, I've given you time and allowed you to discuss it. But now, I've waited long enough and don't want to wait any longer. So, tell me the result immediately, so that we don't break up and it won't look good. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. After all the courtesies, she naturally didn't need to give them any face. Now, she could only see if these people knew what was good for them. It's best if he's tactful, so that she won't have to waste her time. He could only follow her rules. As for the higher-ups of the headquarters of missions, they did not dare to voice their anger after hearing Lung Ruoxue's words. They were not stupid. They could tell that Lung Ruoxue had lost her patience. Once a person lost their patience, it was easy to imagine what they would do. In reality, at this point in time, there were still quite a number of people who felt that Lung Ruoxue was speaking the truth. After all, no matter how powerful Lung Ruoxue was in the rumors, or how powerful she was, her power did not only belong to her. It was the reverent god-level experts around her. Now, those reverent god-level experts had not appeared yet, so naturally, there were people who looked down on her. However, many of these people were like Elder Qi. They were the type who would make a fuss when there was nothing to do, but if there was something to do, they would hide behind, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Therefore, even if some of them disapproved of Lung Ruoxue's unyielding attitude, they would not say anything when no one stood up for her. The atmosphere in the meeting hall fell silent for a moment. Lung Ruoxue saw that the higher-ups of the headquarters of missions were all silent, as if their mouths were sewn shut. She could only smile faintly and say, "Is this considered a silent agreement?" What silent agreement? Miao Jie couldn't help but ask. It's a silent agreement that I can issue the wanted quest for the Mist Ripple bitch. Lung Ruoxue said on purpose. This won't do. Miao Jie quickly replied. Can't. When Lung Ruoxue heard these two words, she couldn't help but squint her beautiful eyes. She then said, You mean you welcome me to use force? How could he possibly welcome her? Miao Jie was speechless. However, Lung Ruoxue did not care what he was thinking and continued. I just found out today that it's useless to be too polite to you. It turns out that you all like to use force against others. Since that's the case, it'll fulfill your wish today. Her words made Miao Jie's anger rise to the top. However, Miao Jie understood Lung Ruoxue's character very well. He knew that he could not go head-to-head with Lung Ruoxue at this time, or he would fall in her trap. It was a pity that not everyone present understood Miao Jie's thoughts as well. For example, Elder Qi did not want to stand out at first, but when he heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he immediately exploded and shouted, Fuck! Who likes to be forced? We're not that cheap. Oh really? Then tell me, What kind of girl do you like? Lung Ruoxue smiled lightly as she turned her beautiful eyes towards Elder Chi, who had spoken impulsively. Thanks. In reality, Elder Chi regretted his words the moment he opened his mouth. However, under the watchful eyes of the crowd and the intense gaze of Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes, even if he was so nervous that his legs and stomach were going soft, he did not dare to reveal it. Otherwise, wouldn't he be discovered to be a coward? That would definitely not do. It would affect his dignity. With that thought in mind, Elder Chi gathered his courage and spoke to Lung Ruoxue. I don't like anything. Lung Ruoxue, although I've heard that you're very powerful, don't forget that our mission will always belong to the Divine Master's residence. The Divine Master is also in the residence. If you dare to act rashly, the Divine Master will not let you off. Although the President had said that there was no news from the people he had sent to the Divine Lord's residence, Elder Chi believed that the Divine Lord would never give up on them. After all, they would earn a lot of money for the Divine Lord's residence in a year. They could really be considered a hen that laid golden eggs. If the guild that was on a mission was destroyed by Lung Ruoxue, the Divine Lord would not only lose money, he would also lose face. It was because of this confidence that Elder Chi was able to remain calm after he braced himself to face Lung Ruoxue. He was not afraid at all, and what Lung Ruoxue wanted was for him to not be afraid. If no one cooperated with her to continue acting, how boring would it be for her? Therefore, when Lung Ruoxue heard Elder Chi's words, she smiled happily and replied with a gentle expression, not bad. You've learned to use the ripple which to threaten me. However, have you forgotten that she and I have a grudge? Even if she lets me go, I don't think I'll let her go. What's more, that cheap woman is injured now. What could she do to me? As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd, who had thought that Elder Chi was courageous and even wanted to idolize him, immediately turned pale with fright. The God Lord was injured? Was this for real? Was he lying to them? Everyone looked at Elder Chi with suspicion. Elder Chi felt uncomfortable under the countless burning gazes, but he had no choice but to brace himself and say, Who knows if you're telling the truth? You can only fool children with your words, but you want to lie to us? I don't have any. I can't do anything if you don't believe me. But don't blame me for not reminding you. If your master god is safe and sound, do you think she will let me enter the city? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. That's because our divine master is magnanimous and doesn't care about you. Elder Chi said stubbornly. However, he was already beginning to doubt Lung Ruoxue's words. However, he did not dare to show it on his face and could only let his thoughts run wild in his heart. However, his little thoughts did not escape Qingju's eyes. Qingju did not need Lung Ruoxue's instructions to report Elder Chi's thoughts to Lung Ruoxue. Later on, Qingju got addicted to it and peeked at other people's thoughts. With a single glance, Qingju could not help but smile. Hearing the laughter in her heart, Lung Ruoxue was a little confused. Seeing this, Qingju could only honestly tell everyone what they were thinking. After Lung Ruoxue heard this, she could not help but sigh. The higher-ups of the Mission Guild were really a pile of loose sand. These people more or less wanted to see the others embarrass themselves. So after Elder Chi stepped up, the others did not even say a word of help, allowing Elder Chi to fight alone. They were really a bunch of disloyal people. Lung Ruoxue really did not know what help these people could give her after she took them in. She hated people who didn't have team spirit the most, so to be honest, she didn't like any of them. Lung Ruoxue sighed speechlessly. She was not willing to leave them to rhyme, but she found it hard to swallow if they became her own people. Chicken ribs. They were really a bunch of chicken ribs. Actually, I don't really like you guys. After Lung Ruoxue sighed, she spoke the truth. Chapter 27:17. I quite despise you guys, too. Seeing Lung Ruoxue suddenly say this out of the blue, everyone felt that it was a little strange. However, they believed that when Lung Ruoxue said that she despised them, it was absolutely true, because from her eyes, It was already clearly expressed. Instantly, everyone's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Too much. This was really too much. They hadn't even said anything yet. Lung Ruoxue was the one who despised them first? What the hell is this? Was there any justice left in this world? Since you don't like us, you can leave. Why are you still here? Lung Ruoxue's words had greatly agitated Elder Qi. Therefore, he had jumped out without a care and had lost his rationality. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she could only look at Elder Qi helplessly and honestly replied, I want to leave, but as long as you accept my mission, you'll leave immediately. Miss Lung, I don't understand. Why do you have to come here to post a mission? Didn't you already put a bounty on the Divine Master in the Divine World? Miao Jie, who had been silent for a long time, finally couldn't help but ask, Why? Didn't your wife tell you? Lung Ruoxue asked instead of answering. Tell me what? Miao Jie asked in a daze. What did this have to do with his wife? I've already spoken to your wife. Go back and ask her. Lung Ruoxue teased. Miao Jie's face turned red when he heard that. Ask madam? How to ask? The madam was still ignoring him. He didn't beat him up either, so this made him quite uneasy. Sob, don't tell me that madam doesn't want me anymore. Ugh, that's a little off topic. Miao Jie quickly pulled himself back from his thoughts and looked at Lung Ruoxue shamelessly, hoping that she could answer his question. However, Lung Ruoxue didn't want to repeat herself, so she only said indifferently, Isn't the Quest Guild a place to release quests? If I don't come here to post my mission, who else can I find? Miao Jie was speechless. Lung Ruoxue's question was very profound, but the mission she was about to issue was even more confusing. All the higher-ups of the Mission Guild, now fully display your duties and obediently accept the mission for me. Well, I'll be happy. Otherwise, I can only let you all down. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. What are you doing? After hearing this, a branch president couldn't help but ask. Use force. Lung Ruoxue said matter-of-factly. Guild leader, say something. We can't let Lung Ruoxue be like this. Hearing that they were going to use force, the branch president, who had just spoken quickly, turned his gaze to Miao Jie and said loudly, Yup, President, please say something. With someone taking the lead, the branch presidents all spoke up. What do you want me to say? What's the use of my words alone? You let me decide everything. What do I need you people for? Is it just a decoration? Miao Jie was furious and spoke without thinking. Miao Jie was furious. The people from the Mission Guild didn't dare to respond. However, they couldn't help but think to themselves, You're the president. If you don't make the decision, are you going to let them do it? If your words were useless, then wouldn't their words be as useless as farts? For a moment, everyone was resentful. At a time like this, the president should have taken over the role alone. However, not only did Miao Jie not do that, but he even scolded them for being useless. This was definitely going to be an internal conflict. This was also the so-called tyrannical in the nest. Some people couldn't help but despise Miao Jie. Thanks, even Lung Ruoxue was starting to look down on him. He heard Lung Ruoxue sneer. President Miao, why don't you let me be the president? He'll make the decision for you? I think it's fine. Someone in the crowd shouted at the top of his lungs. Suddenly, Miao Jie's face turned green with anger. Fuck. As expected, there were traitors. Unfortunately, the voice had appeared too suddenly, and he didn't see who had said it. Look, I'm definitely the guild leader. Lung Ruoxue followed the cue and said impolitely. Miao Jie's face turned green and then black. Miss Lung, please don't make such a joke. Miao Jie said righteously. President Miao, do you think I'm joking? Lung Ruoxue scoffed. Guild leader, he'll say the same thing again. You'd better give me an answer immediately. Otherwise, he'll have no choice but to use force. At that time, your guild leader position will really belong to me. After that, Lung Ruoxue warned. Lung Ruoxue, this is your city. Do you really think you can do whatever you want us here? Miao Jie was furious. He directly called Lung Ruoxue by her name and threatened her. You could try. Lung Ruoxue smiled sweetly. Try? Did he dare to? No, he did not dare to try. However, it didn't matter if he didn't dare to try. Song was already getting impatient. He told Lung Ruoxue, "Girl, don't talk nonsense with them. Now that we're all here, let's quickly take action." When they heard the little white cat in Lung Ruoxue's arms speak, everyone was shocked. There were really people who weren't afraid of making a big deal out of it. Right. Hurry up and exterminate the rhyme bitch's dog. The little red flower in Azure's arms also swayed its beautiful petals as it cheered. The moment this little flower opened its mouth, everyone's shock turned into petrification. This flower can talk. They had thought that the flower on the little white cat's chest was just a decoration. Who knew that it was actually alive? Wait a minute. If the flower could speak, didn't that mean that it had already developed intelligence? Oh my God. One had to know that flowers and plants that had gained sentience were all heavenly treasures and extremely precious. More importantly, this kind of plant was extremely rare, but now there was one in front of them. How could they not be excited? In that instant, everyone who had regained their senses stared at Xiaohua with burning eyes. The attraction of the blood lotus flower had even made them forget that Lung Ruoxue, their mortal malady, was right beside them. Lung Ruoxue felt helpless about their unprofessional behavior. She had not expected that the blood lotus flower would dare to open its mouth in front of so many people. What a little fellow who liked to show off. Wasn't it afraid that someone would try to take advantage of it? In fact, since the blood lotus flower dared to speak, there was really nothing to be afraid of. Who asked it to cling on to Tsong, this thick leg? But the others were not clear about this. The appearance of the snow lotus flower made some of the elders' thoughts alive again. Many of them secretly thought that if they could get this treasure and give it to the Divine Master might be happy and make them the president of the mission headquarters. It had to be said that wealth would always make some greedy people lose their rationality. In addition, the elders present who had designs on the blood lotus flower did not think that the snow white cat without a single stray hair was very powerful. Therefore, some people were determined to get the blood lotus flower. Lung Ruoxue, we will not accept your mission. Since you have disrespected the Divine Master, we naturally cannot let you leave so easily. However, if you are willing to keep this flower, we will treat it as if nothing had happened. How about it? All of a sudden, an elder spoke a bunch of grand words and even expressed his stance on behalf of everyone present, but his purpose was self-evident. Chapter 27:18. I quite despise you guys. 3. Lung Ruoxue laughed when she heard that. Elder Wu Ming, do you represent yourself or the headquarters? Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. I really didn't expect this. She had said so much nonsense before, but no one had taken the initiative to make a statement. However, the little flower had made some people jump out on their own initiative. If she had known this earlier, why would she have wasted her breath on them? It would have been better to send the blood lotus flower directly. Of course, I represent the mission headquarters, the elder said with an extremely firm will. President Miao Jia, you don't have any objections either? Lung Ruoxue turned to ask Miao Jia. Miao Jia hesitated for a moment, but he still answered truthfully, we really can't accept your mission. He did not say a word about who the flower belonged to. In fact, he was also somewhat interested in that heavenly treasure, but as the president of a guild, he couldn't just openly claim the flower as his own in front of everyone. That would be too damaging to his prestige as the president. What about you guys? Lung Ruoxue then asked the other elders. Most of the elders were silent, but a few of them nodded. Very good. A flower has allowed you to make a quick decision. Since that's the case, I can end my courtesies before violence. Tsong, let's do it. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head in satisfaction before turning to Tsong. You must be tired of living to have designs on my little blood. Yes. Big thigh, annihilate them all. The blood lotus flower jeered. Hearing the word thigh, Lung Ruoxue was a little embarrassed. These two words had a good image, but she didn't know what Tsong would think. However, Azure clearly didn't care and was quite eager to try. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue, a human, a beast, and a flower, looked like they were really about to start a fight, Miao Jia suddenly felt a little uneasy. He carefully confirmed, Lung Ruoshue, do you really want to fight? Do you think I'm joking? Come on, I played with you long enough. Now let's have a showdown. The losing side will be at the mercy of the winner. Lung Ruoshue said calmly. Lung Ruoshue, you're only one person. You're overestimating yourself if you think you can fight against so many of us. Seeing Lung Ruoxu's shameless boasting, Elder Chi couldn't help but roar in anger. You guys try and you'll know if I'm overestimating myself. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly as she spoke in a nonchalant manner. As soon as she finished speaking, a white lightning bolt shot out from Lung Ruoxu's arms. Whoosh, whoosh. After a few flashes, only white rays of light were left in the air, but wherever the lightning went, a group of elders fell. Those elders didn't even have the time to scream for help before they directly fainted. At this moment, the elders who were still safe and sound finally felt fear. It was really too terrifying. How did the little white cat do it? The elders who were still conscious felt that it was unbelievable, but in the next second, this kind of treatment was on them. In just a few minutes, the elders who had been awake all fell to the ground with pale faces. This scene made Miao Jie's face turn pale with horror. How? How did this happen? Fear, panic, and fear surrounded Miao Jie. He had never felt that death was so close to him. Was this Lung Ruoxu's true strength? No, this was only the cat's. It was the kitten that Lung Ruoxue carried his arms all day long, which made him feel that other than acting cute, it was useless. And Lung Ruoxue had yet to reveal her true abilities. However, that cat was enough to make Miao Jie tremble in fear. All of a sudden, he deeply felt that he and the others had made the wrong decision. Lung Ruoxue was just like the legend said one should never provoke her. But now that he had done so, what was he supposed to do? Just as Miao Jie's expression was changing like a color palette, Song had already turned around and returned to Lung Ruoxu's arms. Other than the branch guild leaders that they had already recruited, only Miao Jie was safe and sound. And Song had left Miao Jie behind on purpose. Pa! Miao Jie heard the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground. Miao Jie looked up, and his expression changed drastically. You, Miao Jie pointed at the object on the ground with a trembling finger. It was the subordinate he had sent to the Divine Master's estate. He was so shocked that he could not speak. Guild Master, Sob. I didn't even have the chance to go to the Divine Master's estate before I was captured by them. When the subordinate saw Miao Jie, he cried as if he had seen a family member. Thanks you. Miao Jie looked at Lung Ruoxue with a complicated expression. He took a few deep breaths before continuing. The current result is the real purpose of you coming to the headquarters, right? The arrest warrant for God, Lord Cloudripple, was just an excuse. At this point, what else did Miao Jie not understand? Not bad. I came to the Imperial City to take over the headquarters mission. Lung Ruoxue didn't hide anything and told him her true motive. If that's the case, why didn't you make a move earlier, and instead let me cause so much trouble like a jumping clown? Miao Jie was filled with grief and indignation, and there seemed to be tears in his eyes. He deeply felt that he had been completely played by Lung Ruoxue for the past few days. This fact made him quite worried. Lung Ruoxue must have been laughing at him in secret. Do you think I didn't want to make a move earlier? But you don't have enough people. In addition, I like to subdue my subordinates through peaceful means before resorting to force. If you're willing to submit to me, that would naturally be the best. So, please believe me, I've been giving you time. I won't force you until the end. Unfortunately, you've disappointed me greatly, because you're too insensible. Lung Ruoxue explained with a helpless expression. In reality, she was very polite to the headquarters. Other than the fact that the headquarters was established by her master, it was also because the higher UPS here were basically all divine emperors. Since they were experts, they naturally couldn't be treated as they pleased. Therefore, Lung Ruoxue gave them enough respect, especially to Miao Jie. She had done her best. After all, she didn't want her future subordinates to have any dissatisfaction with her. After she had done everything she could, these people still insisted on doing things their own way, so she couldn't be blamed. After hearing Lung Ruoxu's explanation, Miao Jie's feelings became even more complicated. It turned out that it was their arrogance that had harmed them. Why did you leave me alone? Why didn't you let me end up like them? Miao Jie asked again after a long time. You are the guild leader of the Missions Guild. Of course you have to be different. Now, make your decision. Lung Ruoxu said with a smile. I can't betray the Divine Master, Miao Jie said after some hesitation. Even though he knew that his answer might anger Lung Ruoxu, he really couldn't. Because of your father and the others? Lung Ruoxu said. From Green Vessel's mind-reading ability, she knew more about Miao Jie. This was also one of the reasons why she had not made a move. Miao Jie was shocked when he heard that. How did Lung Ruoxu know? He didn't even tell his wife about this. Moreover, he had the idea of getting that flower for a moment, and it was also to save his father. I know why you've been so loyal to that bitch, Ripple Mist, since you were young. Lung Ruoxu continued to disclose more exciting news. This time, Miao Jie was really provoked. One should know that these things have been buried in his heart for many years. Now, no one in the headquarters knew about his past. However, at this moment, Lung Ruoxu had found out about all these old things. He was a little afraid. Uneasily looking at the branch president behind Lung Ruoxu, Miao Jie's face was ashen as he asked, You're saying all this just to get me to surrender? I just wanted to tell you that I can save your father, your master, and the others. Lung Ruoxu said nonchalantly. However, Miao Jie obviously didn't believe her words. After the secret in his heart was exposed, he slowly calmed down and laughed. Do you think it's that easy to save them? What if I can save them? Lung Ruoxu asked with a faint smile. As long as you can save them, they'll recognize you as my master, Miao Jie said without hesitation. He did not believe that Lung Ruoxu could save her. If it was that easy to save her, he would not have been restrained by Fog Ripple all these years. He even had to act like he respected Fog Ripple on the surface, but in reality, he hated Fog Ripple to death. Since that's the case, you can recognize me as your master now, Lung Ruoxu said with a smile. Miao Jie was dumbfounded. How could this be? If he recognized her as his master, where was she? Was he rescued? Very quickly, Lung Ruoxu answered his question. Did you think I was sleeping in my room the past few days? To tell you the truth, I went to save someone. Lung Ruoxu smiled smugly, as if she was willing to see Miao Jie's dumbfounded expression. Miao Jie was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted and asked anxiously, Where's that person? Jie. At this moment, an old man's voice sounded from outside the meeting hall. Miao Jie looked in the direction of the voice and saw a familiar figure in his memory. Tears welled up in his eyes, and he pounced on the legs of the person who spoke like a child. He hugged the person's leg and started crying. Father! Miao Jie howled loudly. The man he was hugging looked extremely old. His body was hunched over and riddled with scars. His clothes were slightly tattered and even emitted a damp and moldy smell. His current appearance made Lung Ruoxu, who was watching from the side, feel speechless. This person was definitely doing this on purpose. He had been rescued for a few days, but he had not changed his clothes or treated his injuries. At the very least, he had to take a bath and wash his face, right? However, in order to make his son feel the pain he had suffered for so many years, this man had actually appeared in such a manner. Miao Jie was probably even more shocked now. Chapter 2719. I don't need you to give in one. However, Lung Ruoxu more or less understood what the other party was thinking. She knew that Miao Jie's father was just afraid that Miao Jie had been brainwashed by the fog over the years and had lived a comfortable life for so long that he would forget about his hatred. However, in reality, although Miao Jie had always shown his loyalty to the fog, he was also constantly thinking about saving his father, master, and the others. However, as time went by, his hard work had not yielded any results. Slowly, he became disheartened. After Lung Ruoxu heard about this from Qingju, she did not immediately look for Miao Jie. Instead, she went to rescue the people he cared about. Such an unexpected result was a huge blow to Miao Jie, but it was also easier to win his heart. Originally, Lung Ruoxue did not want to go through so much trouble to treat Miao Jie. After all, he was just a relatively important chess piece in her own spy network back then. However, after knowing Miao Jie's background, she immediately changed her mind. Miao Jie's father, Miao Yuan, was the first president appointed by her master when he created the Mission Guild. However, after her master fell, Miao Yuan was not willing to join the Fog, so he was imprisoned by the Fog. However, the treatment he received was much better than Dongfang Yu and the others. After all, Miao Yuan and the others were not considered as her master's true subordinates. Moreover, the Fog had to use him to restrain Miao Jie and make him work like a slave for her, so she did not abuse him too much. However, Miao Yuan did not think so. That fellow was extremely loyal to his master and did not think highly of Wu Chen at all. Naturally, he would not be grateful that Wu Chen had shown mercy to him. Moreover, Wu Chen had imprisoned those who did not obey her leadership. As such, Miao Yuan would not appreciate her kindness. Therefore, even though Miao Yuan had been hiding for the past few days, he did not manage to deal with his image properly. Miao Yuan just wanted Miao Jie to take a good look at him and give him a warning. Miao Jie didn't let him down. After seeing his father's miserable state, he said angrily, "Father, Wu Chen promised me that she would treat you well. She actually lied to me? To think that I've been working so hard for her all these years." Miao Jie was so angry that he stopped calling her divine master, but directly called her by her name. When she heard that she would be treated the same way as Wu Cheng, Lung Ruoxue felt uncomfortable in her heart. She really didn't want to be associated with Wu Cheng. At this time, Miao Yuan also said angrily, "You brat, only you will believe that ingrate's words. Her words are all lies to 3-year-old children. Father, I was wrong." Miao Jie quickly lowered his head and admitted his mistake with red eyes. He looked exactly like a 3-year-old child right now. It's good that you know you're in the wrong. In the future, you have to listen to young master's words, understand? Miao Yuan ordered with a stern face. Young master, Miao Jie was bewildered. He had no idea who the young master his father was talking about was. Idiot. In the future, you'll have to listen to young master Lung Ruoxue. Miao Yuan called out his name directly. At this point, Miao Jie had no choice but to understand. However, he was still a little confused. How did Lung Ruoxue suddenly become a young master? Young master, I will be obedient in the future. He said obediently. Lung Ruoxue chuckled when she saw Miao Jie's serious and childish words. She did not expect Miao Jie to have such a silly and cute side. However, she still said in a serious tone, "Be good." Miao Jie was embarrassed, and his face turned red. His face was burning as if it was on fire. Thanks suddenly, Miao Jie heard a faint snickering sound and came to a realization. There were still outsiders here. Why did he acknowledge Lung Ruoxue as his master? The outsiders he was referring to were naturally the branch presidents who were watching the commotion with wide eyes. Understanding Miao Jie's thoughts, Lung Ruoxue pointed at the branch presidents and said, "They've been my people for a long time." Miao Jie was shocked. These branch presidents had been working for Lung Ruoxue since a long time ago. Could it be that she had planned all of this long ago and was now just waiting to cast the net to catch them? AI. Miao Jie could not help but sigh. No wonder Lung Ruoxue looked so confident. Look what she had done without them noticing. However, the more he understood, the more he felt that he had been like a clown. With that thought, he looked at Lung Ruoxue with hidden bitterness and pointed at the elders who had fainted on the ground. What about them? Naturally, it's a forced master. Lung Ruoxue said without a trace of emotion. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Miao Jie felt that she was treating him very well. However, in order to show his loyalty, Miao Jie took the initiative to sign the contract. After all, he was once a member of Fog City. Even if Lung Ruoxue didn't mind, he couldn't give others the chance to gossip about him. As for Lung Ruoxue, She was naturally very satisfied with Miao, Jie's way of doing things. After that, the elders who were awakened one by one were told collectively that they would either recognize their master or die. Choose one. Under Long Ruoxu's violent suppression, most of the elders tactfully chose to recognize her as their master. In reality, they had no choice. I can't just die, right? They did not have such a high level of awareness. He wasn't that unyielding either. However, there were always one or two elders who felt that they were different, such as Elder Qi. Even at a time like this, he still did not forget to use the Divine Master to threaten Long Ruoxu. He also expressed his deep disdain towards the elder's submission. Long Ruoxu, it's not like you defeated us. I'm not convinced. I won't recognize you as my master, and the Divine Master won't let you go. The Divine Master will take revenge for us. Elder Qi shouted fearlessly. Even Miao Jie, who heard this, could not help but break out in a cold sweat for him. Of course, he didn't care about Elder Qi's life or death. He was just worried about Elder Qi's audacity. If he angered his new master, he really didn't know what this seemingly gentle but actually bad-tempered master would do. As expected, the moment Elder Qi finished speaking, Long Ruoxu's smile became even more charming. She then asked, from Elder Qi's words, "You mean you want to fight me one-on-one?" "That's right. I will only submit to you if you defeat me." Elder Qi cowered, but he still gathered his courage and replied, "Very good. I like it when you're this tough. Come on. I'll give you a chance." Long Ruoxu was neither angry nor annoyed, and her voice was unusually calm. "I'll let you make the first move. How about it?" Long Ruoxu added. Instantly, Elder Qi's old face turned red because of Long Ruoxu's words. Fuck, he was a man. If a woman gave way to him, where would he put his face? Long Ruoxu, stop looking down on me. I don't need you to give in. Elder Qi was so angry that he shouted at the top of his lungs. All right then. Long Ruoxu looked at Elder Qi helplessly, then looked at the others with an innocent expression. The expression on her beautiful face seemed to be saying, look, he was the one who didn't allow me to. Chapter 27:20. I don't need you to give in to. Seeing this, everyone's lips twitched and cold sweat broke out. However, what happened next petrified them all. This was because after Elder Qi, who was initially eager to fight, made his move, Long Ruoxu did not receive his attack, nor did she prepare to attack. Instead, she stood calmly on the spot without moving. It was only when the wind blade condensed by Elder Qi's divine power was right in front of her that her body swayed slightly. If it were not for everyone's excellent eyesight, they would not have noticed that slight movement. But what about Elder Qi? The fact that Long Ruoxu had managed to nullify his attack had thoroughly infuriated him. Hence, he did not even think twice before he attacked again. This time, Long Ruoxu finally made a big move. She immediately turned into a stream of light and shot towards Elder Qi. When she was right in front of him, Long Ruoxu gracefully lifted her leg and kicked Elder Qi's waist. Then, the crowd saw Elder Qi flying towards the wall of the assembly hall like a kite with a broken string. With a loud bang, the originally solid wall of the meeting hall had a human-shaped hole in it, and Elder Qi was embedded in the wall. Even though Long Ruoxu rarely did such a thing, she had seen a lot and learned quickly. Hence, the entire set of movements was so smooth that it dazzled the eyes of everyone present and made them exclaim in admiration. The things that Long Ruoxu had done and the strength that she had displayed had caused them to be completely petrified and shocked. After a long time, they finally regained their senses. However, the way they looked at Long Ruoxu had completely changed. With Elder Qi standing out, the other elders who had wanted to stir up trouble were all like newborn chicks, obedient and honest. No one wanted to be embedded in the wall like Elder Qi and become a mural. At this time, they both sympathized with Elder Qi's encounter, but they could not help but be glad that he had sacrificed himself. Otherwise, they would probably be included in the mural now. However, after Elder Qi became a mural, he did not faint. Instead, he was extremely clear-headed. After struggling a few times, Elder Chi saw that he couldn't break free, so he shouted at the top of his voice, "Put me down! Quickly put me down! Lung Ruoshue, did you hear that? Who are you talking to, huh?" Lung Ruoshue squinted her beautiful eyes and said indifferently, "Whoa, I was wrong. Please let me down. I don't want to stay up there." When Elder Chi heard this, he immediately gave in. The current him was like someone who had been stripped of all his clothes and allowed to be seen by others, making him quite uncomfortable. Moreover, it was a little high up there. He was afraid of heights. It's so good up there. You can stand high and see far. The scenery must be very beautiful and charming. Moreover, you're looking down from above, and we all have to look up to you. Isn't this what you've been dreaming of? Lung Ruoshue reminded him with a smile. Dreams? No way. He didn't want to be looked up to by the crowd, but definitely not under such circumstances. Right now, he really felt like a monkey in the zoo. The feeling of being surrounded and discussed by all kinds of people was really not good. Let me down. I'm begging you." Elder Chi pulled down his old face and begged. He was well aware that without Lung Ruoxu's orders, no one would have dared to save him. "No, I think you look good now. I'm very satisfied," Lung Ruoxue retorted. Then she shifted her gaze to the other elders and reminded them, "You can recognize me as your master now." Thanks. After that, Lung Ruoxue told them about the contract that she was going to sign. It was the one that the Parasol Tree Mother Tree had taught her. When the elders heard this, no one dared to disobey. It was because the reality was very clear. Lung Ruoxue could easily take care of them. Furthermore, there was that little kitten that could take care of them all by itself. It was watching them like a tiger watching its prey. How could they still have the thought to resist? The signing of the contract went very smoothly. After becoming one of their own, Lung Ruoxue finally gave the elders a smile and told them that their future work location would still be in Imperial City, and the nature of the work in the Guild of Missions would remain the same. When Miao Jie and the elders heard this, they looked at Lung Ruoxue in surprise. Then, the elders collectively turned their gazes to Miao Jie. Miao Jie had no choice but to bear the brunt of it and ask the question in everyone's heart. "Young master, we're already your people. It's not good to move around in Yu City under the eyes of Wu Cheng. Moreover, if Ramais finds out that we betrayed them, I'm afraid we'll end up in a terrible state." Miao Jie's words echoed the thoughts of everyone present. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone shifted their gaze back to Lung Ruoxue in unison. The anticipation in their eyes was self-evident. They didn't want to stay in Yu City anymore. This was obvious. Ramais doesn't know that you betrayed us. As long as you don't say it out loud, you'll still belong to the Divine Master's estate. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she consoled him. Ugh, did the new master want them to? Now, everyone understood. However, such a thing was indeed very dangerous. As long as they were exposed, what awaited them would be death. "Master, what should we do with Elder Chi? There's also some of the headquarters' normal staff. These people are not easy to deal with." At this time, an elder who thought of this couldn't help but remind. "Can't you guys handle the normal staff?" Lung Ruoxue asked in disbelief. We don't have a problem with the ordinary staff, but it's a big problem for Elder Chi." The elders said after some thought, "He's even less of a problem. As long as you don't put him down, he won't be able to come down himself." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Elder Chi had said it quite firmly. Hearing this, all the elders looked at Elder Chi, who was hanging on the wall as a mural, with sympathy. Then, that elder said worriedly, "We're afraid that he'll talk nonsense. There's so many people coming and going here. It'll be terrible if something reaches the Divine Master's estate." "I see. Why don't we give him some mute medicine, so that he can't make a sound?" Lung Ruoxu's suggestion was met with deep agreement from the elders. Listening to Lung Ruoxue and the rest talking about how to deal with him, Elder Chi was so depressed that he wished he could faint. However, at this moment, he was full of energy and couldn't faint even if he wanted to. However, the feeling of listening to everyone talking about him was really uncomfortable. "Please spare me. I was wrong. I'll recognize you as my master." Elder Chi wanted to cry, but had no tears. "You're not sincere enough." Lung Ruoxue obviously despised him. Tears streamed down Elder Chi's face, and he wished he could kneel down in front of Lung Ruoxue. Why did the other elders not receive such treatment? But he had to be tortured like this. It was not fair. This is not fair. It was extremely unfair to him. The furious Elder Chi made up his mind and said with tears streaming down his face, "Then what do you want? Just tell me that you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.